play box, TV, the internet is the devil's play box. Well, because AI it doesn't change everything now. No matter what we say, somebody come up with an AI program and have us saying it's crazy. It's used for good and it's used for bad, man. It's just where it is. That's just where it is. Individualistic society based on money.
Oh gosh, here we go with that. Here we go with that. No, I know you already jumped the gun. No, I know what you're getting at, because I know when we were talking the other night, you were saying that you and Dana got a lot in common. You guys come across as arguing all the time, but you have a lot in common. But we were discussing that today.
Dana, tell them, we don't be arguing. We just be talking. You know what I'm saying?
Just talk.
We used to do that. With my brother MC. Rashid, we wasn't arguing. They don't know what I'm talking about.
Free expression, man.
We wasn't arguing. We were just talking.
Yeah, free expression, man.
Yeah.
We always had that open book in the family where we could talk about anything we want to talk about, and it didn't affect our relationships. Never, ever. No matter how loud we talk or how soft we talk, it never changed the relationship. We said what we had to say, and we respect what that other person said, and that was it.
That's the way it's supposed to be. It's the way it's supposed to be.
Right.
Within the family and outside the family. But beautiful people. This is another episode of Kiko's Freethinkers Forum. Good morning, everybody in the world and here in the United States. This is episode 142. We're joined by two very special guests. My dad, you all probably remember Jerry Soul Train Scruggs from episode 100 of Kiko's Freethinkers Forum. That was an epic episode. It was actually the first time we got donations on the program. So that was an interesting conversation. We had episode 100 to kind of commemorate the success of the program and the show. And we're joined by my first cousin, too, Dana, who we're all based in the Nashville area. But we're going to have more or less a family discussion today, kind of give you all a look behind the curtain to see how these types of conversations we're having in every, household in America, in every living room, the types of conversations that people should be having anyway, and the way that you conduct the conversations. You don't have to lose your friends, your family over disagreements, but we have to find a way to engage effectively, because otherwise, regardless of what direction you want to go, if you want to lead some kind of a movement, you're not going to be able to lead the movement if everyone is discombobulated or fragmented. You have to be able to communicate effectively, and that's the only way it's going to work out. You got to take your egos out to and look at the greater goal at the end of the day. But I just want to welcome both of you gentlemen onto the show, and I can't wait to have this conversation with you.
Glad to be here.
Me too.
DJ Train, a.k.a. Kiko's dad. I just saw that. I just saw that on there, man. Interesting conversation today. And we've been talking, before we came on today, this episode 142. We obviously had different points of view. And I think that will be a great starting point, because we're talking about not only various viewpoints, but various generational gaps. Me being, at least 20 years younger than you all. So that has to factor into the way people think too. And I'm just wondering, from your vantage point, and you or Dana can start, it doesn't matter who starts, but whoever wants to start can kind of talk about how does that influence our way of thinking, just the generation you grew up in. I mean, we're in the same family, but we grew up in completely different generations. What were some of the things happening in your generation that you think affect the way you think today?
Coming from a community-based setting where, family lived in the same community. So we had close connection to each other because of being in the same community. I could walk a couple miles down the road, visit my grandmother, my uncles, etc. Because of that gave us a sense of connection and a value system that we could rely on, because we were able to see each other every single day. We knew about discipline, and we knew it from the old school way because of the fact we had those connections. Now, what's different, for example, transit, meaning job leaving the communities, and family has to travel outside of their living communities to work. They don't have those close ties with family like we did, and that's a fundamental difference. Because when you have the old school right there in front of you, teaching you certain value and respect, etc., is hard to get away from that kind of teaching. Well, in my son's case, they don't have that opportunity that I had with my grandparents. So I think that makes a big difference. I think because of lack of not having the opportunity to be close knit family because of jobs and things of that nature, being more transit outside of the community breaks down the family in so many ways, especially from a value perspective.
And something else that people don't really, they consider it sometimes, but when you take away the main links of the family tree, it seems like the family is from my observation and just observing, the family is not strong as it used to be. Everyone seemed to have went their separate. We've had death in the family. We've had some deaths that have really, the first really true death that shocked our family was when Dana's brother died. That was the first, because that was the first significant family blow, 1983. That right there, it changed our family. It was a link in the connection that was strong because Kenny loved everybody in the family. We was close knit. And then 10 years later, my mama died, his grandmama. That was a blow that we still recovering from. You understand? And it's something that people don't really think about much, but it really affects the whole family. I could see that after mama died, we wasn't as close no more. Because like how everybody used to come over to mama's house after you take away mama, ain't no coming, you know what I mean? It wasn't no more coming by to see mama. So that sort of separated everybody out a little bit. But all in all, it's been a one journey. It's been a journey. It's been a journey. It continues. It continues. When we was coming up, we had one thing that couldn't nobody take away from us. And that was, we had really two things. We had love and we had hope. Hope is hard to find. That's really all you got now is hope. You hope this, you hope that. But the way the world is to me, it seems like it's taking hope away too. Like you could hope for a better tomorrow, but deep down in your mind, and you be looking and you be saying, I hope for a better tomorrow, but I just don't think it's gonna be now. You know what I mean? I just don't think it's gonna be now. Because it seems like things are getting worse to me. I'm from the old school. Where the next door neighbor could whoop you, and then you're gonna get another whoop when you get home. You know what I mean? I'm from that school. I'm not from the timeout generation. I believe when you take the discipline out, it's hard to, when you take the discipline out, you take the respect out. That's the way I look at it, because that's why some kids don't respect nowadays. You spare the rod, you spoil the child. I'm from the old school. I don't think you can raise a kid just straight through. It's just hard for me to believe. if these kids had the old school philosophy type, you got one smart kid, everybody would be, instead of being here, everybody would be here. The mentality, all that changes. When you take out discipline and you got the timeout factor, there are no consequences suffer. You know, like people used to try to, well, you want to hurt the child, take away this, take away that, and take away this. Yeah, but the way the kids are nowadays, you take away that, they don't take a brick or anything. You know what I mean? You're just different. We would have never dreamed of nothing like that back in the day. They don't know what I'm talking about. We wouldn't have a dream of nothing like that back in the day.
So in your assessment, when did old school become something else?
During the 80s. During the 80s, it began to fade. During the 80s, to me.
Well,
by the tail end of the 70s, you could sort of slowly see changes. Plus, the old school was based on this right here, too. It was based on daddy going to work and mama was home with the kids. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Now, that changed a long time ago. Both parents had to work now. So therefore, the kids, they in daycare, it's just different.
Okay, I know Dana had some response to that about the old school. That's interesting. He said he saw towards the end of the 70s, but in the 80s, he really saw the transition. What about for yourself, Dana? When do you think that what Dad is talking about, old school, this mentality, when did that start to change?
Well, let me just pick back just for a moment on what he said about hope. And also what he said about family connection and how important that really is. Now, when I got my first car in 1977, when I graduated from high school in 1979, I brought a 1977 Grand Prix. Very nice vehicle. I was only about 18 years old at the time when I bought that 1977 Grand Prix. Now, connection. Do you know the first person that rode in my car with the 1977 Grand Prix because of connection? It was my grandmother. My grandmother was the first person that I picked up in my car and took her for a ride. Why? It is because, listen, speaking of that word hope that he talked about, when I tried to buy the car, in the year before, when I was 16, I couldn't buy the car because I had the money in the bank, but I didn't have the credit. And so they would not allow me to buy the car the first time I tried to buy a Grand Prix. I went to my grandmother, his mother, and I told her I didn't get the loan. I couldn't get the car because I didn't have any credit. It was my grandmother that said to me, at 16 and 17 years old, that says, look, don't worry. Okay, child. That's what she was saying. You will get the car. Okay. You'll get the car. Don't worry. You'll get it. And guess what? The next year, I bought the vehicle because I took and got a direct loan out of the $3,000 I had in a savings account at age 17, got a direct loan downtown Franklin and bought a color TV that was made of wood cabinet, bought it from my mother, and and because of that established my credit. But what he said about connection, it was my grandmother connection that gave me hope. That's what we don't have today. We don't have connection. My kids, one live in Murfreesboro, the other live downtown Nashville, and I live here in Antioch. But when we grew up, we were right there with each other. That connection. When did it start change? I think it changed under my mother generation. I just think
your mother's generation. When is that exactly?
What I mean by this, I think the grandparents, like my mother as a grandparent, I think completely different from my grandmother, I don't think grandparents, I just really feel this way. I don't think grandparents, it's not their fault. Okay. I think what caused the problem is, like, for example, my mother, she didn't have the same connection with my kids that I have with my grandma. My kids don't have the same close connection with my mother. I'm talking about in terms of reaching and touching and being in the same community that I did. So by us having to move out of community, it poisoned, especially for the African American family, it poisoned the family. Well, the family is not close. Me and Train, all of his brothers and uncles, we at least see each other at least once or twice a week.
More than that.
That created close bond in relationship because of that. So I think, as I said before, because of the lack of having to move out of the community to get jobs, to establish a well-to-do family, has affected the family. And that probably, and I think it took place. I think what he said about in the 80s, about kind of close in the 80s, but I think it all happened because of the fact is the connection between the generation change because of the way life changed. My grandmother, I could be right there, access to her quicker, talk to her, see her life, see her situation, understand her, she can understand me. My son generation, or even your generation, don't have that same community access that me and Train had.
Okay, so I have to say something to beautiful people. I was born in 82, so of course, it sounds like without saying it, that's where the generational shift happened. And that makes sense because they call us, they actually consider me a millennial. I don't consider myself a millennial. I consider myself part of Gen X because I consider millennials like my sister's age and a little bit older. She was born in 86, but I'm going to get to why I view myself as a Gen Xer and not a millennial. I think that's shaped more by things that happen around you, more so than how old you are. I think it's what you take away from when you were a certain age and you had to put that event or series of events in a context, a broader historic context. That's what I mean about I think that's what generation means, because even people that were born my year aren't going to think the same way I do because of the things that affected my life during that time period. So sometimes it's just simply, I mean, the fact that I grew up with the computer in my household, when my parents, I mean, neither one of my parents went to college, but they both were able to buy a home in 3.5 years when we moved to the city in 1989. We moved in 89 and they bought a home in 92 or 93, roughly around that period. And at that time, our youngest sibling, Will, was born in 1992. My sister was already about 6 years old. And my wife, just to make a point, she was born the same year my brother was born in 92. But she didn't grow up with the same stuff that I had. She grew up in a rural area. I grew up in the city. But see, even my own parents, my dad grew up in the city in the projects and my mom grew out in the country. So all these things factor into the way we think about stuff. It's not just simply the time period you're in. Sometimes it's your circumstances that affect, that stuff. But I think generally speaking, I agree. The stuff that you're talking about, some of the stuff you're talking about is wonderful. The connectivity aspect, the family aspect. But some of it's like a foreign language, man. When you say old school, I'm like, what the hell are they talking about? But it's hard for me to capture that because, I mean, I am who I am. I was born in 1982. How am I supposed to recapture that? And I don't think you all are saying that I should, because I'm in a different situation than you guys were in. You know what I mean? So I'm not, it's not a necessarily a negative thing. It's just something that's a different thing. And this time we're going to have to do something now to kind of recapture the positivity of those moments. Because we definitely need true neighborhoods again, where people can play on the block. You can play with your friends, go down the street, hang out with your friends and stuff. We don't even have that anymore. Like, even when I grew up on Natchez, we had that on Natchez. Like, the neighborhood kids would all come to our house. We shoot basketball. We socialize. We play cards. I feel like we still kind of had that, but now the generation, and this is me saying that this is the generations after me. I'm saying the same things you guys are saying, but I'm saying this about the generations after me. I'm saying that they don't have what I had. And you guys are saying that I didn't have what you guys had. It's just a circle of life again.
But I think that the reason for that is because I think parenting and all of that, because of society change.
Yeah.
You know, when I went to my grandmother's house, my grandmother had a certain rules and standards on my daddy's side. When I went to her house, you couldn't go into her refrigerator and just pick anything you want. You had to, if you wanted a popsicle, a glass of water, or whatever you wanted, you had to ask for it. And if you didn't ask for it and it went out anyway, you were disciplined. You were told, do not go in that refrigerator, or do not go get anything without asking for it. She had a standard on that side of that, my grandmother. Okay, what kind of standard do we have today with our kids? From a grandparent perspective to our grandkids. What kind of standard do we have? Probably, for the most part, they got free range. They can do just about anything they want to do and say anything they want to say. But with my grandparent on my dad's side, you couldn't do that. You had to say yes, ma'am. You had to ask for things that you wanted, and if she did something for you, she let you know how much she appreciated. She would even give me a little money just because I know you need a little bit of money to buy you something. She set a standard, right? We don't have standards anymore. We got free independent individualism. We let our kids pretty well dictate to us what they want. And we just go along with it. And why do we do that? Because I think we have got mixed up that parenting is the most important thing that you can do for your kids, is parenting. And that parenting consists of structure. It consists of making sure that kid understand the consequences of their choices. If they want to make that choice, but you make sure they understand through those choices what those consequences are. And I think that's the difference.
It's hard to do that when you got time out and the child is not going to learn from the mistake.
Yeah, but the time out, right. But the time out is the time out at school. You may have time out at school. You may have time out at school.
No, time out at home.
But my kid never had time out at home.
I'm
you know what the time out was? My belt.
Look.
Damn.
When we
that
are
was the time out.
When we are
you better
talking
get
about,
your
when I'm talking about the majority. How you done is how you. I'm talking about the overall picture. I'm looking at the big picture, and that's what I'm basing on. I'm looking at the big picture.
The big picture.
Here's what happened. In our thrive to be enlightened, when I say enlightened, I mean in our quest for the dollar chase, a lot of the parenting was taken out, especially when you started when both parents had to work.
So you said
I seen it happen, Dana.
So you're saying because both parents have to work, that
A
that's
lot
a
of
that,
a
that's an
lot of the
excuse. That's an
a lot
excuse
of the teachings was not taught because they couldn't teach them because they was at work. And when they got home, they got to do fix stuff, and they got to do the you can't the rat race of life is partly to blame for that.
Yeah.
Society would
Yeah.
everybody tell me I do what I want to do. Society make you do what it wants you to do.
But
society, when society change, you gonna change or you gonna be left at the corner.
Well, I tell you what, I do agree that society can and will have a fundamental impact on parenting. However, I think for the most part, though, if you want to really look at how family can succeed in life in lieu of society, the parenting has to be consistent. My kids, for example, my son, born in 1998, and of course, Kiko, you know that internet and information and all of that is more available, to them and opportunity, etc. We got all kind of information out there now. But here's what I tell my kids. They're 26 years old. I give them free opportunity to say anything they want to say in terms of free speech. They have an open opinion to discuss anything with me. But here's one thing that they will not do. They will not disrespect me. That's a fact. No matter what you say and what you got to say and how you say it, you won't disrespect me. You don't have that right to do that. I'm your parent, number one. Number two, if you make a decision, listen, this is parenting. If you make a decision and you come to me for my opinion and you want me to be a participant of that decision, I'm your parent. So therefore, I'm going to always guide you in the right direction.
And right.
So
you see
so when I give you when I tell you the three options that I think you have, 1, 2, and 3, those are the options. And you choose to go outside of the 3 options that I gave you, that I know those are I'm not telling you you have to do that. What I'm telling you, I am your parent, so I'm looking out for your good because I'm your parent. I'm not going to lead you wrong. But if you want to be stubborn and you want to do what everybody else is doing because of what you read on the internet or because of what your friends are doing, because of peer pressure, and you want to do what everybody else is doing and ignore what I know is best for you, guess what? Then you suffer the consequences.
But like they're supposed to. You look at like this, Dana. Like they're supposed to. After all, this is what I'm saying, Dana. After that child get a certain age, you say your kid's 26.
Yeah.
They can respect you, but they're gonna do what they want to do.
Yeah. But you have but still as a parent, but still as a parent, you have parenting. Parenting never.
After a certain age, man, I'm telling you that
they do what they want to do.
Look, they can do what they want to. I can parent all I want to. If so-and-so decide to go with knucklehead and they go somewhere and pick up a brick and throw it and bust somebody went out of it, that's knucklehead mistake. It ain't got nothing to do with my parenting.
But then you called me on the phone. Well, let me tell you this.
That's him.
But when you call me on the phone, and you ask me to get you out of jail, or you tell me,
even if they don't ask
hold on, you ask me to get you out of
be in there forever.
Well, hold on for a second. You called me and you asked me to get you out of jail. You called me and asked me to borrow $2,000 because you made a decision that you want to make and not the decision that I gave you guidance on. You called me and said, okay, I want you to do A, B, and C because you made your own decision. I believe as a parent that I have the right to to not tell you what to do, but I have a right to invoke you with wisdom of choices. Okay, as a parent, I have the right to give you the wisdom of choices, and then you make the because you're 26 years old, or 30 or 40 years old, then you can make your own decision. But guess what? When you make that decision after not taking wise advice, you own your own. That's what's wrong with the generation.
The way I look at it, Dana, is
you got to have structure.
The way I look at it, you own your own anyway. I'm just the opposite. I'm just the opposite of what you said. I'm saying once they reach that certain age and make their own decisions, you can only parent up to so much.
Exactly.
You can only parent up to so much. A whole lot of stuff, a lot of the decisions that they make is out of your control.
Well, let me ask you a question.
Out of your control. You can be the best parent that ever lived.
But let me ask you a question.
A lot of their decisions are their decisions. They make the wrong decision.
Let me ask you a question.
Nothing to do with your parenting.
So you as a parent, because I think parenting to me is not because when you get from 1 to 18 years old.
Yeah, I got a whole lot to do with it.
I believe parenting is eternal, because what parenting does is give you wisdom. I'm not saying okay. There's a point in parenting where you have to structure your child in certain things that they have to do, and that's come a part of parenting where as you become the counselor to your kids, where you give them wisdom. Right? They make their own decision. I totally agree. They make their own decision. But as a parent, do you think I'm going to sit there and look at my kid go down a road that I know that they're going down is not right? I know it's not the best decision because I've been there. I've already done it. I've already walked that path. I know getting 5 credit cards and don't pay them on time is not going to get you nowhere. It's going to put you in the credit bureau, and you're going to have bad credit. I know that. I've been there and done that. So as a parent, when I see that, I'm going to help because I care about you and I care about your outcome. I'm going to give you some wisdom on some ways that you are to balance a budget that's going to be for your good, for the long haul, for your family, because I've been there and I've done that. That's just giving you advice. I'm not saying I can't make you do it. I can't make you do it, but I can't sit there. I'm not going to sit there and let you go down the road and just say, "Oh, okay." Because to me, that's not parenting.
I think Dana. I just think after you get a certain age, you can still parent, but a lot of the stuff really is really out of the parents' control. I'm sorry. I grew up in a generation where by the time you getting 18, you almost had to get your ass up out the house. Now, put it this way, you couldn't stay with mom and dad forever. You had to sort of start venturing out or trying to do something.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I know you know what I'm talking about.
Uh-huh.
I grew up in a generation where by the time you were 18, 19, all that, you had to try to make some kind of arrangement to get out of mom and dad's house. Try to get something for yourself. Now, see how society done? See, now the kids stay with their parents in their 40s.
Yeah.
Because you know why? Because society done made it so expensive to live and to be out and try to do things. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but I don't think it's all because of society.
Oh yeah. It's society. It's got, put it this way. No, it ain't about society. You got about 0.3. The rest of it, you chalk it up to society and time.
Okay, so gentlemen, I want to kind of chime in just for a second to capture what we've been discussing. So I understand Dana's position and I understand Trent's position. I understand both positions. I think the audience is starting to understand how we work here as far as the dynamic. It's a wonderful dynamic. It's just but it's good to have difference of opinion. This is proven that it's not as simple as it seems on the surface. It's not as simple as, oh, with that generation, they just don't know what they're doing, they're clueless, or this generation had all the answers, and that every generation is going to be different inherently. That's just part of life. And just like what Train was saying earlier about the quest for the dollar chase, I think that capitalism, the way it was when you guys are growing up, is a lot different than it is for us. This is very much a credit-based society. 4% of the people in this country own their homes. That means that 96% of the people, do you see these beautiful white picket fence homes? These people don't own these homes. They're renting. They could be a paycheck away from catastrophe. It's just an illusion. It looks like people are stable, but it's the presentation of stability.
Yeah.
That's what this generation, starting probably from the 80s, when you really had the boom in the automatic transfer machine and the money machine, the ATM machine, and the credit card boom that started. I think that that's a direct result of capitalism. I think that can't be ignored. The way money went for you guys went a lot further than it did for us. We probably had to work a little bit harder to get that same value out of our dollar than you guys did back then, because the dollar had a little more sustainability to it. That's more societal. But when we talk about the family level, the only issue I have with what you're saying, Dana, is that, and it's wonderful. If it works for you, it works. But I think it presupposes, that mentality kind of presupposes that most parents are the same and that you had guidance along the way. Because our generation, the family structure is completely different. Or both parents even in the house. You're assuming that both parents are in the house. You're assuming the grandparents are present in the house. I mean, I just don't, and there are outside factors that cause this fracture in the family. You know, we can point to a variety of issues that could be the cause of this situation, this dissolution. But I think that has to factor in. And I also think about all the parents, when their son or daughter commit crimes and they kill people and stuff. I don't think they ever envisioned that my child is going to be the one doing something to somebody like that in society. And you could have been a great parent. You could have instilled unbelievable philosophies and values in them. But at the end of the day, like Dad was saying, you can't control what other people do, whether it's your kid or not. You can't control other people's actions.
Let me preface
you can only control your own actions.
Let me preface what I'm saying so that it doesn't get misconstrued that I'm blaming the parents. See, I'm not blaming the parent for a kid action. But what I am saying is that there has to be principles that we live by, whether you are a parent, been taught or not, meaning whether you're the mother, father in the household or not, or whether you're a single parent, there still has to be certain principles you live by. Because if you don't have principles that you live by, and you can do whatever to whomever, in any outcome of whatever you do lands on the piggyback of somebody else because of your choice, and it should be that way. I believe that people learn from two ways. They can learn by principles that set forth, or they can learn by their mistakes. But the danger of not having principles or standard is the greater evil. It's a greater evil. Why?
I think it's all the same.
Because a dog who has been trained can help you a whole lot better than a dog who's never been trained. A dog who's never been taught how to act, okay, he's going to bite you. He's going to do everything crazy to you because he don't have any structure. And he doesn't learn.
What I'm saying is this: what you're saying is true, but also that dog still got the what? the capacity to do what he wanted to do, snap.
But don't you want? But
if
let me ask you a question.
He gonna snap.
But do you think though that we as human are to give the person the best opportunity to be their best? And I think the only way we can give, as a father, the only way I can give my son an opportunity to be their best, at least the probability of being their best, is give them some principle to live by. Because if I let them run wild,
I call it
any kind of structure.
It's the same thing.
What's going to happen is if I let them run wild without any kind of principle, with any kind of standards, then guess what? In the long term, if they stay on that path, they will never learn, and the consequences will be resting at the parents' feet. Principles are very important. We have to have principles. That's what. Hopefully, if we move on to other things, and this is what I want to say. And let me say this quickly: money, all of that, materialism. That's what's wrong with America. It's just not the money. It's materialism. We don't know how to be independent.
You know something.
We don't know how to be independent.
All that walks hand in hand. Don't try to separate materialism from money. It's all the same thing. But you can't have the materialism without the money.
But what I'm trying to say is,
don't try to separate them. It's the same thing, baby.
Yeah, what I'm trying to say is, it's the desire. It's the desire to feel like I am in this Cadillac that I'm driving that I can't pay for. It makes me look like I'm important. The house I can't afford, it makes me look like I am where everybody say I need to be.
They call it keeping up with the Joneses back when I was coming up.
Yeah, right. But truly,
I'm like this. People are gonna do what they're gonna do. You're gonna live, learn, you're gonna make mistakes, and that's just life. It ain't gonna be nobody gonna go through unscathed. You're gonna get lubed up in this world. And you got a choice of four.
No matter what you
got a choice of four. You're gonna get that's just the way it goes.
But what do you mean by that, Dad? Can you explain that to my audience?
What do I mean by that is this right here. Life is gonna always be, unless even if you're born with a silver spoon in your mouth, you still gonna have problems.
Yeah.
You still gonna have problems. The excess that you got, you're gonna make mistakes behind it. You're gonna make mistakes behind it, whether you rich or poor.
Right.
That's just the way it goes. And as long as you live in a society that's run by money, based on money, and run by a government that's capitalistic, you gonna always be lubed. You got a choice of four. You want KY, Vaseline, motor oil, or WD-40. How you rolling? Which one you want?
Well,
which one you want? I prefer the WD because you ain't got no squeaks. That's what society is. Society is. That's what society is. I tell people, live the best you can live because you can't take nothing with you. It's two things that we all, everybody talking about, it's two things that everyone living has got to go through, and that's life and death. All that stuff in the middle, that's life. And it's a short point. It's a short point. The book say 70 years. If you break that down, the book also says a day in God's eye, it's 1,000 years. If you break your life down by God's eye, you are living less than 2 hours. Break it down. You ain't living 2 hours. You ain't never thought of that, hey. Break it down.
Well,
it's a short time. That's how come you hear people say, life is short, life is short. They're right. Life is short.
Yeah, and
life is short.
Life is short, and we have an opportunity, and we have the opportunity. Each and every individual have the opportunity to make the best out of it. Society, government, it has the impact. But let me say this about government, to be clear. The government is, for the most part, has to do with us. We can't have government without us participating. Yeah, we can't. Every person you send to be on the board of your HRA board, or your school board for parenting, or the mayor of the city, or the senator, or your state representative, all those individuals, they can't be in office. They can't be in office just because, boom, they're just there. It's because of people participation. People participate to vote those individuals into office. So we are the one. We are the one that can make a difference in terms of who is in office. Now I can remember, when I was in high school, my brother Kenner was on a varsity basketball team, and I wanted to do something before I left the school. So I decided to run for vice president of Pep Club. And guess what? Nobody knew me. In fact, they didn't know me and Kenner were even brothers. The reason they didn't know that because we had a different our last name was different. Mine was Forrest and his was Scruggs. He was well known because he was on the varsity team. I wasn't well known, but I wanted to do something. And you know how I became vice president of Pep Club at Franklin High School? I created a pamphlet. On that pamphlet, I put Dana A. Forrest, and I put in parentheses the brother of Kenneth Scruggs. And the next thing came up is when they made the announcement. I won. I won off of the popularity of them knowing my brother Kenneth. But I became Pep Club vice president because I wanted to do something. So my thing is, I know people talk about government, how government is corrupt and this and that.
Oh God!
Yeah, really. They talk about how government is corrupt and all that. But let me tell you,
hold on. Let him finish, and then I got something to say, and then we're going to come back to the same topic. Okay?
Talking about government is corrupt and this and that and the other. Okay, but the people that's in office, we the people have the opportunity to put those individuals in office. And we don't participate, we don't have a voice.
Sometimes you ain't got a voice with the one that you didn't put in office.
Okay. Hey, I know where this is going. I know exactly where this is going, and that's good. This is going to be a really juicy segment. I know it is, but I want to recap something we said before. I actually want to say I'm enjoying myself right now up until this point. This episode 142 of Kiko's Freethinkers Forum. Tell your friends and family, subscribe, share all the content. Some of the stuff you may not like, but I think you will get an education from it if you do have an open mind. We talk about culture issues. It's really an educational forum. It's a public service educational forum. We are fully monetized as a channel, Kiko's Freethinkers Forum. That was only possible because of all the dedicated listeners and viewers, and people are being impacted by this particular forum. And I want to just thank you from the bottom of my heart to everyone that watches it, supports the show, whether it's monetarily supporting it or not monetarily supporting it. 43% of our audience is located outside of the United States. 43% of the audience is getting the opportunity to see real-time contemporary United States issues in Black America and America as a whole. And I think it's a unique opportunity to see these types of perspectives. And because people don't know how people live around the world. And so I think it's a great opportunity to connect to so many different types of people across the globe, because at the end of the day, we're all people. And I think that people can do something with information and learn from shared experiences and different experiences. I wanted to go back and just pose this one question. It won't take long, and then we can go back into this philosophical debate about, does voting actually matter? What does participation in the process mean? What does it mean to have a voice, and what does it mean not to have a voice? Like, that's where we're heading. I understand that. But before we get to that, I want to pose the question to both you and Dad. What was the first major event outside of your family, whether it was political or something that dealt with the world? What was the first recollection that you had of a political event or something, and how did that impact you personally? And that I can start with Dana, and then we can go to Dad after that. But I'm just curious, like, when was the first moment in your life you had that? I'm curious to hear this.
You talking about an event that happened personally, or event that happened in society, or?
Yeah, it could have, yes, societal, something that you saw on the news, something that just stuck with you, the first moment that you can remember in your lifetime.
Okay.
Because I remember two events in my particular situation.
Probably the death of Dr. Martin Luther King. I remember where I was at the time, living on 1912 Glass Street. My grandmother was out there with her popcorn popper and frying fish and things of that nature, and it came over the radio. And I remember that evening, as I was standing there and listening over the radio, they said Dr. Martin Luther King had just been shot, and then later they came back on the radio to say he died at the hospital. That's I won't ever forget. I was on 1912 Glass Street. And it was in '68 when he got killed. I was 8 years old. I'm 64 now, and I still remember that event.
And how did that impact you going forward? That's the part I also want to get.
Well, at the time, of course, I could not really relate to the total impact of Dr. King death at that time. But today, having grown up and as a mature man, I think the Dr. King death have impacted not me in a way where it made me appreciate his life in the sacrifice that he made, because of what he stood for. I understand why I have the opportunity that I have now, that I didn't have when I was 8 years old. I could not go in any store. I could not go to any school. Our territory limited to places I could go. Now, because of Dr. King, the movement of Dr. King, I can go anywhere I want to go. I can live in any neighborhood. I can apply for any job I want to apply for. Where before I didn't have that opportunity.
That's a good way of putting it. Yeah. How about for you, Dad?
Well, it really comes to the very first one is really three events.
Okay.
And they're all three events happened in the 60s. The very first one that I can recall was November 27th, 1963, when John Kennedy was killed. I was 7 years old. We was at Brentwood School and had a little black and white TV in the room. And, I was just 7. I was almost 8. I would have been 8 December the 5th. I was about a week or two before my 8th birthday. But I remember just like it happened yesterday. We were sitting in class. They had little black and white TV. It was playing, and they come on and say, "We interrupt this program." Said, and say the president had just been killed, I could tell something was going on because all the teachers and stuff was, they started crying. Something's going on. Because they started crying, and the second time was in '65 when Malcolm Little, aka Malcolm X, he got killed in '65 at the age of 39. And then again, just like Dana said, in '68, when Martin Luther King was killed at the age of 39. Malcolm 39, Martin 39. Both of them 39 years old when they died. Malcolm was born in 1925. Martin was born in 1929. Both of them dead at the age of 39. As far as, I just don't think the Black community have recovered from that. It was sort of discouraging going forward because when you see they picking off the leadership of the Black community is picking them off. Who want to run? Who want to run? And if you look back through history, it was a board. It was a big board when Kennedy got killed for a few years. It wasn't nobody breaking their necks there. That really hurt the movement, to be honest with you. That hurt the movement. Would you agree with that, Dana?
Oh, talking about Kennedy got killed?
No, when Martin Luther King got killed.
Did it hurt the movement?
That
dissipated the movement.
Yeah, because see,
I mean, I just think
people tried to pick it up, but it just never recovered.
Because Dr. King was a guy who was straightforward in what he had to say. He knew the importance of nonviolence because he had training about nonviolence when he went and visit the country. I believe Uganda. And when he had all that training, the things of that nature, and picking back off of his childhood, how he saw his parents being treated. I think when he walked into a store, of racism and all that, it's kind of stayed with him. So he was committed to making life better, starting with the people of color, but abroad. He was committed to that, right? And nothing detoured him from that purpose. I mean, if you remember his last speech quickly, he says, like any man, I like to live a long life. For longevity has its place, right? But I'm not fearing any man. For my eyes have seen the glory and the coming of the Lord. And he got killed that same night. There has been nobody that has stood in the gap of purpose since that happened. Nobody. Now, you got other leaders in the civil rights movement, but they have not really stood in the gap for purpose. If you look at the Martin Luther King, all the things that they did in the movement with Martin Luther King, or the poor man movements, poor people movement, the voting rights, there in Memphis, Tennessee, for wages for the garbage collector. These were long-term efforts, movement that make a generational change. Nobody has stood up for such movement since Dr. King has died. And in fact, if anything, they become more individualized in terms of non-inclusive. It's about them. Everybody else in the movement it's mostly about them. I think that the only way change ever come, it's not necessarily being inside of government. That's why the civil rights movement had an impact, because it was outside of government. They're not being pressured by government regulation and government. In fact, what?
Yeah, but you got to look at the big picture, Diana.
Outside of government, you putting pressure.
Now, you got to look at the big picture. What you just said, outside the government is the one took him out.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah, I know. But
That's what I'm saying.
yes. But let me tell you something. What I'm saying is this: if he didn't have the mass of community participation, it wasn't just Dr. King.
No,
It was a movement of
collective
people
effort.
participate. Now, of course, anytime anything that's worth having is a sacrifice involved. Anything worth having is always going to be a lamb of sacrifice. If you want change in America, the movement with Dr. King, somebody has to sacrifice. I mean, it has to be a collective movement. If it's not a collective movement, it's not going to happen. I'm talking about where it has generational change. We have to have a collective movement.
Okay, Daddy, do you want to respond to that? And then I want to share my 2 events in comparison to what you all shared with your 2 to 3 examples when you guys were growing up, as far as what you remember, your first recollection of something significant like that. But Dad, do you have any response to what Dana was saying?
I just think that as long you have a controlling government, I remember they passed the Voting Rights Act back in 1965. 65. Why are we still sort of haggling about that 60, 70, 60 years later, almost 60 years later? Why? The government and all them, they got a way to push stuff to the back. Each day it's being forgotten. It's not being remembered. Each day that passes is being forgotten. And once you push it back so far, it's hard to bring it back to the front. After all, don't nobody want to solve nothing, no way. It's just like an old wound. What you got to just keep picking the scab. You got to keep picking the scab. You pick the scab, and the little pulse come up. You just get it off. It almost heal back up again, and the pulse back up. You got to pick the scab. That's all we've been doing, is picking the scab since 1965. A whole lot of this stuff that we debating and arguing about, ain't nobody never come up with a solution. Everybody keep pushing it back. Oh, you ain't thinking about it today. You ain't thinking about it. And as far as movements go, the only time we have a movement is like we off to a wall somewhere. That's really the only unity as far as the country go, to me. I don't see it nowhere else. I don't see it nowhere else unless we off to war somewhere. Everybody throw a flag on their car, and then when the war's over with, you right back to where you started from. Everybody's haggling. See, it's gonna always be like it as long as you got people separated and they only have 2 choices, and the 2 choices that you got is the same choice, because everybody talking about, well, it's the lesser of 2 evils. The way I look at it, evil is evil.
Well,
yeah.
Ain't no such thing as the lesser of 2. What's the lesser of 2? Oh, instead of shooting you 65 times, I just chop your head off, keep putting it back on there about 70 times. What's the difference? What's the difference? As long as you got a choice of 2 and they're both the same choice, well, to me, I'm sorry. I done lived too long. I done lived too long and seen too much. Let me ask y'all a question, and be honest with yourself. You know, they're talking about, well, the national debt is $35 trillion. Do you think they're going to pay that money back? Do you really think that? If you think that, man, I got something to say. You cheap. It's called BS. And I got a whole lot of it. Do you think they're going to do that, Dana? You think they're going to help pay off the debt that you hear about so much?
Well, I guess the question would be then, during the Clinton administration, back in when he was president. He won two term. According to information, the national debt there was no national debt.
No.
It's always been a debt. As long as you got a war, it's been debt since World War II.
That's not true, Dana. That's propaganda.
So I don't know what you thinking about.
I'm just saying what.
It's been debt since Vietnam War. What you think all that stuff?
I'm just saying what I read.
Come on, Dana.
During the Clinton administration, he
don't say it like that, baby.
He paid off the national debt.
No, that's not true. No. That's not true.
Hey, that's not true.
It's not true.
That's not true.
Well,
you cannot have. You can't keep sending stuff to the moon and all this, that, and the other. Keep doing what you're doing and not have a debt. You can't send folks off the war and it's constant. After World War II, you had the Korean War. And we've been stuck between a war for the last 100 years, seems like.
And you know what most of the debt is? Most of the debt, what most of the money is for debt, don't you?
Yeah.
It's in military. It's in military.
I know.
The majority of the money is in military.
It ain't just military, Dana. It's not
just the military, but I'm saying
the space program. You know how much money they done spent since 1969.
I'm saying if you look at American budget,
you can pay the debt off with that. You could have been paid the debt off with the money that you spent on the space program since '69, Dana. You could have been paid the debt off when you add up the Vietnam War, Afghanistan, all them wars you done had. You could have paid the debt off. I'm sorry, you ain't looking at the big picture.
No, I'm saying most of the monies. If you look at American budget, the budget of America, when America budget, when they have a breakdown of American budget where America spends its most money. You give America $100, out of that $100, where does the most money is paid? Do you know? If I remember, and I have to look it up again. If I remember, at least over 55% of American budget goes toward military. 55%. The majority of the money that's been spent is in the budget. Second to that, if I'm not mistaken, I believe it was, I think the Medicare. After that, I think last, the budget relating to social service. I mean, poor people, money that you give to poor people that they think that they're getting a lot of poor people a lot of money. All the welfare program that they think that the welfare people is breaking the budget. That they want to cry and think like it's a poor people problem. That's why America is going broke. Ain't the poor people is why America's going broke?
No, it's not.
I think only 4% of the budget to go towards the poor people. Only 4%. We have to look that up. But for sure though, the majority of money of the U.S. budget goes toward military.
Yeah, I mean it's all.
You still ain't answered my question yet.
What's that? What's the question?
But because I can flip your budget and like you talking about. All right, how is it that you can have a budget? You can have a budget say, well, our budget this year is just say, I'm gonna keep it simple. Our budget this year is $2 trillion, but we go out and spend $2.9 trillion. See at 0.9, that's almost another, and see that adds on to you what they call the deficit. Okay, you know what the deficit is now, Dana. I know you've been looking. What is it, between 30 and 35 trillion? Do you think they're gonna pay that off? You got to be crazy if you think they're gonna pay. How? When every year is increasing, how when every year is going up, do you plan to pay it off? The deficit, they got it broke down. It's something like, what is it? Something like each family is what, 11,000 or some dollars or something like that. If everybody in the country paid $11,000, yeah, we could get rid of the deficit.
Okay, so just to interject a second, the deficit this year, we're not even at the end of 2024, and the deficit right now is already 1.85 trillion just for this year. We're already almost $2 trillion in the hole this year.
done spent
fiscal year.
just supposed budget. Like you
$2
said, the
trillion
budget.
already.
When did they ever follow the budget? And you got to be.
I mean, I didn't look up too much information relating to the budget. I do remember back in the Clinton era that he pays out the national debt.
He didn't know. We're telling you that he didn't.
know.
You keep saying that.
I have to look. I have to look it up. I don't know.
People in the audience, people in the comments are going to tell you that. I mean, it's false. It's completely false.
So in other words, what you're saying is, since the 90s, we done run up 35. We done run up since in the last 35 years, 30. Just say 35, 40 years. Just say 40 years. No, they but 92. They but 30 years. So in the last 30 years, we done run up since he paid it off. Like you saying, we done run up $35 trillion in debt since in 30 years.
I mean, it's
no, Dana.
Well, I mean, I like I said, I'll look it up, and that can be another conversation we can have.
Man, they ain't gonna never pay off the debt, Dana. I don't see how. How can you pay it off when you're going over it every year? This money looking fuzzy to me. You know what I mean?
So what do you think is going to happen if we never pay off the debt? Then where does it put us as a country? I mean, in terms of what risk is involved if we don't pay off the debt? Where do they put us as a country? I guess that's probably the important question.
You know who holds, from my understanding, I believe China holds the most in the money we owe, right?
I'm not sure about. Of course, I'm not sure because I did not read much about.
Of course,
that part of the
I'm going to link an article that completely debunks what Dana was saying about Clinton balancing the budget. It's an article. I just found it. It's not that hard to find. I'm going to link it in the episode description. But I don't necessarily blame people for thinking those types of things. But you have to understand when people are constantly selling you things, and they have to do that to maintain control. I mean, that's the way it is. And I think once you establish that you're supporting one side of the ruling class, it's almost like anything that's in contrary to or in opposition to what that side of the ruling class is saying is automatically just ineffective or it's just false. But a lot of it's just propaganda, honestly. They just like the government statistics. When they report things, they're not telling you the real numbers. They're not telling you they're not giving you the real GDP numbers. They're giving you the numbers
they want you to have.
They've already fuzzed the numbers. When they give you the press conference, they've already come in adjusting the numbers and stuff before they even give you the raw numbers. So it's not the real representation. And that's something that the country is going to be hard to understand, that because we're not critical enough of our government. The fact that people now are treating this next election, November the 5th, like this is the greatest election of our lifetime. Do you know how often they say this bullshit? They've been saying this for 60, 70 years. This is the greatest election of all time. This is the most important democratic moment in our history. Do you know how often they say that bullshit, man? Like it's all the time.
All the time.
It's propaganda. We've already proven just in our small conversation, the government itself killed the movement, the direct action movements, the civil rights movement. The government itself killed it. And we're asking the same government that dissipated and destroyed that movement to revitalize it. We're asking for the same government to revitalize the movement that killed. Like, how does that make sense?
See, here's the thing. When I think about trying to factor in the importance of government responsibility, what part do we play in that? And if we are going to say the government has so much power that we, the people, does not have any arm length to put the government on his back, meaning us taking over the government, with the system that is set up. I mean, the people can change it.
How?
Well, okay, so let's look at some information. In the Senate, 100, of course, for Senate seat, 100 Senate seats, right?
Mm-hmm.
In the representatives of House of Representatives, that's 435. Now, in order for a bill to pass in the Senate, it's got to have 51 votes, right? 51. That's a majority. 51.
No, 60.
Well,
yeah.
Well,
60, not 51, 60.
Well,
and that's
60.
a crucial point.
Okay,
And
well,
there's a big difference between 51 and 60.
There's some bills that they can pass with 51.
But I read.
You're not gonna pass. You're not gonna pass the real ones you need. That you got
some pass for 51 because you got 100. Some will pass for 51 because that's what I read now. But here's the thing. But here's the thing. That 435 House of Representatives. Those representatives are chosen by us. We get to choose them. Your senator, you get to choose the senator. You get to choose the House of Representatives. So my point of concern is this: we the people, we have ways to participate in order to change certain aspect of what happened in government. Right now, don't get me wrong. It's not a perfect government. It never will be a perfect government. It never will. It never will be. But let me tell you something. If I had my choice to live under this governmentship of America and to live in China, where you don't have free assembly, you don't have free speech, and in fact, where the government is the owner of everything that you do. In China.
It's like that here too, Dana.
No, it's not. No,
yes, it is.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
No, it's not. Look, I can work in America. In America, I can go anywhere. I can go anywhere if I want to and start my own business and work in America. No. I can do that. Yeah, I can.
I'm like this. I think it's been the way at. I'm sorry. I used to would have made a statement like that, but the way it is nowadays, you can't really say that.
Well, give me an example. Help me out. Help me out, because I'm not. But I'm not understanding where, because you make me feel like the government has the power over everything, and we have no choice.
The government has the power. The government got one thing, Dan. The government got one thing, and that's all they need. They got the power of control.
Well, who give the government the power? People.
Themselves.
You elect the people.
Who give the government the power is the ones with the money. The money is what's running the government, Dana. Everyday people ain't just going down. The money is what's running the government. Because the bills and stuff that goes in the law, somebody doesn't pay somebody to put it on the agenda.
So do you think the civil rights movement? Do you think the civil rights movement would have been the idea of the government?
The what? What are you talking about?
Civil rights movement. Do you think it would have been the idea of the government?
No.
No.
Do you think the civil rights movement would have ever happened if it was up to the government? If it was up to the government,
no.
Okay, so tell me.
It was still up to the government.
So hold on for a second.
It didn't happen, did it?
Well, follow me for a second. So the civil rights movement happened because of the people. Would that be fair?
Exactly.
Yeah,
right?
and what happened to it in the end?
But hey,
government.
Yeah, but government might have, the old cowboy movie we used to watch. You remember the old cowboy movie you used to watch where the Indian and the cowboys fighting? and they always try to go for the chief, right? Always gotta go for the chief. Well, they went for the chief, yeah, when they killed Dr. Martin Luther King. But look at this. Look at what has happened. Look what would have not happened if it had not have been Dr. Martin Luther King. You and I can assure you, you and I would not be sitting right here with the opportunity that we have right today.
You got to look at things through the prism of time, baby. Before that was Martin Luther King, that was somebody else.
Yeah.
That was somebody else that was trying. You can go all the way back. You can go all the way back. It's always was somebody that was trying.
Yes, I agree.
So Join the Truth, Harriet Tubman, Nat Turner.
That's right.
I agree. But what I'm saying is
without
people participation.
What did the government do?
Let me tell you something.
The government tried to kill all of them, didn't it?
But here's the thing, though. Here's the thing. Anything that's worth having, it's always going to be a sacrifice. It's always going to be a sacrifice.
Sacrifice.
It's always going to be a sacrifice.
I can understand a sacrifice. It's way more than just a sacrifice like you talking about.
What I'm saying is,
look at how many were sacrificed. It wasn't just one.
But my point is this: without people being involved, we wouldn't be here. I mean, Lewis.
I know, Jada. I agree, but the issue I have with what you're saying is that you're completely contradicting yourself.
How's
you're
that?
You're contradicting yourself because you're comparing Martin Luther King, Malcolm X. You're comparing people outside of the official government. This is direct action, is what you're talking about, is the protesting and the mobilizing of the people, and then which led to nationwide protesting.
Sure.
Even with people who didn't want to protest, they inspired generations of people to fight against the system. Yeah. But you're proposing that the system that they were fighting against is a legitimate system that's in our interest. What we're saying is that the official government that you keep alluding to, Congress, which has 12% popularity, by the way, the House and the Senate, all this stuff has 12% popularity. So the question is, how are they getting reelected over and over and over again if only 12% of the people even approve that body to begin with? I can tell you why. They don't need us. All they need are the corporations and the donors. They don't need us. Everyday people like us aren't supporting them. All I'm saying is that there's a difference between outside the system and within the system, because when you talk about the Senate and the House and stuff, you're still talking about the government. The only reason why JFK did what he did wasn't because he wanted to do it out of the bottom of his heart. I know JFK gets a lot of credit, but if it wasn't for all the black people fighting in the streets, he wouldn't have done any of that shit. LBJ wouldn't have passed any of that stuff if it wasn't for us and other people actually pushing for the change. It wasn't because of them. It was a result of us that they did that stuff in the first place.
I'm saying we the people are the one who makes the government better. That is what I'm saying.
That's true.
I've always said, I didn't say, I never said here, I never said that the government were good. I never said that. But I'm saying all the people, whoever's in the government, in the Senate, in the House, we the people are the one who makes the government accountable.
But I think you're transposing the time period. Like, I think at one point we may have been more effective. I just don't think that now that we can look up here and say that we have the same effect on the government that they did back then.
No, we can't. Yeah, we can though. We can. Here's the problem. You know why we can't? You know why? Hey, if I just deal with my race by itself, you know why we can't? Wow. Think about it like this: when you're not included, you yearn to be included. When you're included, there's no yawning at all for the most part because you're included. So here's the thing. See, we think African American from a broader sense, we've been gypped. What it boils down to, we've been gypped because we think because a few is on the mountain that everybody else is on the mountain. You see, we've been gypped because the civil rights movement were the civil rights movement were to bring the generation of people into a better place, not just a certain group of persons, but to change the generation. That's what the civil rights movement was all about. And for the most part, most individuals in the civil rights movement, even in the North, they may not agree in the North. The Black Panthers, they all may not agree with the strategy, but everybody agree with the fact that we need change. And the thing is, we don't think we need change as a race as much because we think we it. Those who can do something, they don't want to do nothing because they think they don't put all blacks as equal. See, Dr. Martin Luther King had a PhD, one of the smartest black men, but he made everybody feel equal in what he was fighting for. And what we have now is black people who don't really care about the other part of the other class of the other classification of the black people. They don't look at us as being equal, and that's the problem. Blacks, Dr. King, PhD, and he did not look at himself as being any different than the garbage collector, right? He feel he had a duty. We don't feel that way as elite blacks. We put ourselves in different classes, meaning in terms of how we see each other, the value and how we see each other.
Society put us in different classes.
No, I'm talking about in terms of our viewpoint. The mentality in the civil rights movement were the generation needs better, not just me, individualism, but as a collective body of people, we need better. But that's not what they're saying today.
But something is missing in the MLK talk. MLK at the end of the day is still a figurehead of a larger movement, because I'm going to tell you something. Even in that time, Martin Luther King was actually one of the more conservative voices in the movement. A lot of people don't know this. It was actually the students. They were the ones that pushed him and made him more revolutionary. It wasn't him. There were other people involved in this movement. It wasn't just Martin Luther King. The Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee had a lot to do with Martin Luther King. SNCC and Stokely Carmichael and all them. It wasn't just Martin Luther King.
Right.
It was Malcolm. Malcolm had another angle to it.
Yeah.
And I think we have to put this in a broader. It's not just one person that made this happen. It was a lot of different elements involved.
Well, when I use my Dr. Luther King, I'm using him as a leader, not necessarily.
I get it.
Not as no leader can, as you just said so plainly, no leader really can do any work without follow. It's impossible. John Lewis, Freedom Ride. Okay, he was the one who were participant head of the Freedom Ride. John Lewis was of the Selma in the Washington in the Selma Montgomery March. John Lewis was the person who were pretty well the person who will organize that particular movement. Okay, so my whole thing is this. I really believe this, that the difference between the 60s and now is inclusive or collectivism, which means that then they saw a need where we needed to be included, and we were fighting for inclusive because we didn't have certain rights. That's what collectivism is all about. It's to really have inclusive for certain rights. So we were fighting for those rights that we were not included in. Now, in today's time, we're not fighting for a right for a generation. We're fighting for, we're not fighting for anything. We just we're just trying to do our own individual thing. That's the problem. Those who can make a difference, those who can invoke change like the Dr. Martin Luther King movement did, they're about their individual. It's more about individual now. That's the problem.
I wonder why. That's because money can change a person's perspective. Money will change a person's perspective. Our problem as a society is we've lost our moral responsibility.
I agree. I totally agree.
We lost our moral responsibilities, and we didn't lose it last year. It's been lost a while. And as long as you can keep tricking folks with this money, you can always have the upper hand. What do you think of happened, Dana, if they came out tonight and said, well, we got some bad news. Money ain't worth a damn no more. Can you see the chaos?
Well, probably for those who think money is all their hope, yeah. But for people who have a higher sense of value,
it's gonna hurt the ones, Dana, that control it all. It's gonna hurt the ones that run everything.
Yeah, for them, yeah. It's
gonna trickle down to everybody else.
And just a case in point to what Dad is saying and what we kind of been saying with the kind of the mixture of outside of the political system within, opensecrets.org. I told Dana about this a few weeks ago. It's a very important site. It does go back to money, unfortunately. I know it sounds very pessimistic. Just for instance, this election cycle is projected to be the costliest election cycle of all time. It's projected to be over $15.9 billion spent just in this election cycle. When I went to Michigan last week, there were probably 150 ads on average a day just between the presidential candidates, not to mention the Senate races and the other congressional races. To me, that's a serious problem. That tells me that it's not about principles or morality or anything we've been talking about. It's simply about how much money can you spend outspending the opponent. And in that sort of mix, you're still talking about a binary. You're talking about a Democrat and a Republican in every single situation. And my question for people out there who I don't believe in electoral politics personally. I don't even know if I'm voting this time around, but I'm just going to pose this question. How can two people represent 350 million people? How can two perspectives, which I would argue is just one perspective, how can they represent 350 million people, two parties? Like, to me, that's ridiculous. But people keep saying that this is a democracy. It is. So how do we get reduced to two options then?
Well, look. I know I'm sounding like I'm a broken record, but money have always been here. Money have just started. Money was here when Dr. Martin Luther King was running, when he was a civil rights leader. That was a lot of money. Trust me, that was money. And in fact, I can assure you, if they could have stopped the movement without having to kill him, they probably would have, but they had no option because money. They didn't have no option because money were not the answer when you got a mass of people unified. Because look, they knew this. They knew that. Here's the problem. They knew this. They had to change because you know why? They had to change to a certain degree because if not, they knew economically They know what happened. Look what happened when Dr. King got killed. All the riots and all that. It was an unstable country. To me, if in order for America to be reflected of their sins, in order for America to be reflective of their sin and America to change to a better America, we have to have a movement. We have to have a movement. Money have always been here. Two parties have always been here. The only way America is going to it's going to change, we have to put America on its back, and the only way we can do that is through a revolution.
And how do we happen?
How you gonna have a revolution when you ain't got but a choice of two?
No, you can have a revolution. You only had a choice of two when Dr. Martin King came. We only had a choice of two.
Yeah, but we're comparing time periods. You keep going back to the 60s, man.
You know why, come? Because we are too. Look. The reason I'm going back to the 60s is because equalism. We thought for a moment because there were more people poor and not too many that on the upper class when it came down to black people. Most of us could identify with each other as a race. Most of us could identify with each other as a race. Black people can't do that now because we think because we got a college degree.
M-O-N-E-Y. Go on and say it. You can go on and say it.
Because we got a college degree.
Go on and say M-O-N-E-Y, man. You want to say it. You're going to have to say it sooner or later. You have to say it sooner or later.
Whatever money can buy. But my point is this.
Yeah, right.
Because we got a college degree.
Please don't sugarcoat.
Because we got a little problem.
That's the problem.
We got a little better house than what we think we got. All of that. We don't know how to equalize ourselves too as a group. We have allowed opportunity of education and money to be the separation of our moral conscience, where we don't care about the next person. What we care about is how am I doing, not how we doing as a community, as a race. But how am I doing? And I tell you what, you know what? You know what? The problem is it's sad. It's sad that people who piggyback off of the suffering of a man like Dr. Martin Luther King, John Lewis, and others who have did so much to bring us to the opportunity of having something that we don't even show enough gratitude to be strong participant of change for a generation. What Dr. Martin Luther King was fighting for wasn't for individualism. It was for collectivism. It was for inclusive for a generation. That's the problem. I'm with you, Kiko. We truly need to hold our government accountable. We do. Because the government going to do whatever they want to do, just like when Kennedy was in office before the bill was signed by what's his name, late LBJ. President Johnson. Before he would have. Do you think he signed that bill because he really wanted to? No, he didn't sign because he just really wanted to. It was not to sign the bill or keep on dealing with the chaos in America. Which one are you going to do? You want to have bad dreams at night? You want to have bad dreams at night, or you want to be able to get up in the morning and think clearly?
Let's get Dad in this because I know Dad's got a lot to respond to.
I ain't got. I'm gonna say what you scared to say. It all comes down to money. M-O-N-E-Y. You can shout you can do that all day.
Yeah.
You can do that all day.
Yeah.
And a lot of people go for it. But see, I got a cork in my ass. You can't blow no smoke in. Smoke in my head. I got cough. I'm coughed up. Now, the rest of them, you got them because they cough free.
Uh-huh.
You got them, but no, no. It all comes back down to the MONEY, and the same MONEY that controlled government in the 65 is the same MONEY that controlled in government in 2024.
Yeah.
Believe me when I tell you that.
Yeah.
It's gotten worse though. It's getting so much worse.
You know why they got so much worse? Because you got individuals now that, if you add up, look, I look at the stuff like this. If you take the top 100 richest people in the United States, they got more money than the government. Hell, and they got just as much money as the government, ain't they? Boy, I look at it, Elon Musk 260 billion. You hook him up about 10 more people. You already at the trillion mark. You're already at a GDP of most countries. You know what I'm saying? It's getting bigger and bigger. It's getting bigger and bigger. Bill Gates, Elon Musk, what the dude on Amazon, Bezos.
Jeff Bezos.
Bezos. Yeah.
Add all them just Warren Buffett. Them just 3 or 4 people. Add up all their money. That's money is power and control. That money, power, and control. Yeah, Elon Musk wants Trump in office. He sure do, because that way he can just take over the whole space program, unfettered. That's his big thing. But it's one thing that keeps money from it. Death will keep you from advancing. And when you die, somebody else gonna be arguing over your money. If something happened to either Elon Musk or all these people that got that money is not gonna be the same money. Death the only thing death really is the only thing that really sometimes can bring change.
Well, I tell you what.
Hey, I just want to add one thing, and I'll let Dana speak, but I had to add this in. Just like for 1990, for instance, the average amount of money for a White House staffer was probably around $29,000 roughly, something like that. Now you're talking about the base salary of a senator is around $174,000 a year. In 1990, it was about $96,000 a year. But see, now you have a class of senators and Congress people. They come out multimillionaires, and the question is, if they're working for the people, how are they all coming out multimillionaires? Everybody that's in there now, they're coming out multimillionaires. There's something going on there. It's
all. Look, if I know that we can pass a bill to help this right here, I'm going to invest in that. Why do you think it seems like me, every senator is really hung up on what? On the Dow Jones, ain't it? Stock market. Because when it go up and go down, let it be. When it go up and down, they the one doing the most squawking. They say now, knowing what's going to fail and what's going to grow, automatically.
And I agree.
Huh?
I agree with what you're saying. I mean, money is certainly and then have a lot to do with the motivation of what people are doing. I totally agree with that. I read that also about the $174,000 salary that the senator. I read that too, because that's what they're getting paid, right? A lot of money, right? To represent people.
That's the base salary. That's the base salary.
Yeah, base salary. But
they are.
Yeah. But I tell you what. Here's the thing. I go back to what I said before. You take the people that you're talking about, like Elon Musk and the guy that owns Amazon, etc. They're making the money because they own the market. They own the market. What I mean by own the market, they the one who's driving the drive of the car, where you can order on Amazon or whatever, right? So people can change that if they care, if they're about inclusive. But here's the problem. The reason we don't care
It's because you got two choices, Danny. You got
No, we don't,
and then you got the choice of money.
We don't what it want. We don't.
People gonna choose money most of the time.
We don't care because our moral conscience is not the same.
I say moral responsibility.
Our moral,
about the same thing.
Our moral conscience is not the same. This is not the same America from a point of what we believe of a higher power, because that's really what caused the movement. Really, they were led by people. It was led by people who whether you believe in God or not, it was led by people who honestly believe that there was something greater than themselves were going to help them to be better off than where they were. If we stood in faith, nonviolence, America conscience is not the same.
Even if everyone, and I'm not even putting words in your mouth, but everyone, let's just say everyone believed in a higher power, they all had spirituality, everything else, there would still be issues.
Yeah, but my point is this.
Yeah.
But my point is this. My point about moral conscience is you care about things more than you care about your neighbor. That's my point.
And you know why? Because capitalism has gotten worse. That's why.
That's my point. But we don't have to. But we don't have to. It's up to us.
You keep denying capitalism's effect. You keep denying. I feel like you're denying capitalism's effect.
Money can change.
But let me tell you something.
A person's perspective. I'm saying,
but money don't have to.
It will. It will, though.
Well,
it will.
Yes, I agree.
It will.
I agree for the most part. It will. It will, but it doesn't have to, because the scripture said money is a root of evil, meaning people will do a whole lot, for the most part, for the money. Okay.
Hey, I'm gonna tell you something. Dana. I kind of see where this could go. Let's just take and this is the issue I have though, man. It still comes down to the corruption that is there. And if we're talking about people like us, for instance, we're more relatable. We, as in the three of us, we're more relatable to the rest of the country than the people you're talking about. So if we had the money, I believe that it would be different, as opposed to Elon Musk, Warren Buffett, Jeff Bezos, all these people we're talking about. You cannot discredit that, because that's where I make the separation. You're comparing people who don't have an incentive but just to make money and control everything. That's their goal, is hegemony, power, control, money, everything else. That's what they've shown. And so these same people are supporting both parties. That's what they're doing. It's almost a blackmail operation. You either join on board with the blackmail operation, or you decide not to take the blackmail.
You got to join. And see, most people.
You don't believe that, though, do you?
I disagree. I disagree because I think
most people have already done it, Dan.
I believe.
You know why? Because you either a Democrat or you're the Republican.
I believe.
You hear many people saying I'm independent.
I believe that when you don't understand purpose, in fact, they did a study. The peer pressure. They went into a doctor's office. One person went in there and sat down. Another person went in there and sat down. And they all, 12 people, sat down. And then the one person stood up. Nobody came out and said, called the person name or nothing. The person stood up. And when that person stood up, guess what happened? Everybody in the whole doctor's office stood up. Peer pressure. They did another study. They're only influenced by the other person's action instantaneously. They did another study where a person were going to a fair and people were walking. They did a study where most people end up getting in the line where the most people was. Why? They had no idea what they were selling over there. Okay, but most people end up getting in the line where the most people was. So I'm gonna tell you, people want to be included, even if they know what right and wrong is. Even if they know what right and wrong is. If you said that your dad's at the office, I'm gonna give you an example. You said that I've done it. all my life. You grow up and you are a stern, conservative person who believe in God, etc. And all of your friends, they're not. That's lonely. That's not fun. That is not fun. That is not fun growing up and you being and 90% of the people, 95% of the people that you associate with has no connection to what what you believe. How can I relate? That is pressure. So you got one or two choices. You can say, "Oh man, what I'm doing is not worth it," or you become included. Now I would say for the most part, that's the way people are. People are more prone to be a part of what everybody else is doing, even if they know it's not right.
To me, that's not inclusion. That's not inclusion.
They want to be included. They want to be included.
Yeah, but we have well look at it. I think when you're talking about inclusion, it's something that wasn't there before that you're trying to get to. That wasn't there before. If you got a situation where everybody got a chance, the way everything is set up just like the ones that's running everything want. I always believe that. It's just hard. It's hard to change and take the money out. I just don't think you can do it without it.
100%. And that's why I think we have the fundamental disagreement with you, Dana, is that we want to believe it has nothing to do with spirituality, none of that stuff. I think people inherently have the potential to be good people if they aren't already good people. It's just simply, if you took money out of politics, it would solve what we're talking about. I think that's the issue. Money is too influential in politics. And to say that it doesn't have the influence and it doesn't cause people to do things, I just don't think that that's a good argument.
Yeah. No, I agree.
I think that's the issue.
I agree that money influence. I agree. I think if you gave me if you gave me $2 million right now,
you vote for whoever I tell you to vote for.
Look, if you gave me $2 million right
now, whoever I tell you to vote for. You give me $2 million right now. I can money will change your perspective.
You give me $2 million right now. $3 million. Give me $3 million. I can assure you. I probably you give me $3 million. I really had to make some tough choices to make sure that I keep myself in the moral things that I know of, because guess what? That money would give me a chance to peep in places that I thought I could never peep into, or even create the idea or create the idea of peeping in places or going places that I've never been. So I believe that yes, and money has that influence. I totally agree. But when I'm talking about ordinary people, the average person in America, how much is the salary average? If I'm not mistaken, the average person in America, if we consider middle class, I think the average income for middle class for a family, I think is about $50,000. I think.
I think it's $65,000.
Is it 65?
Yeah.
For one person?
No, I think for a combined house.
Okay, for 65, and that's not a lot of money. No, really not. That's not a lot of money. But here's the thing: it's important because I can set up my home information, internet. See, we don't even talk about how all this influences too. We talk about money and how money influence. Look at how much information influence us. When I came along, you couldn't go on the internet and buy nothing.
But
whatever you wanted,
I look at it from
create anything or buy a gun when you want. So my point is, information is also a part of the corruption of what people have become in terms of making wise and good choices. Is how is having access to information.
I told you the internet was the devil's box, but you don't want to believe.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be. I go back to the moral conscience. It doesn't have to be. I go back to principles.
It don't have to be, but See, you keep saying it don't have to be, but it is. It is though. It don't have to be. You know something? The sun don't have to come up tomorrow. It don't have to, but it probably will. It probably will.
Well,
Hey, before we go back to something that Dana brought up before we close the conversation, I wanted to go back and just say, in comparison to what you all were describing as your first recollections of a significant impact on your personal life when you were kids, you cited several different events and occurrences. You talked about the assassination of John F. Kennedy. You talked about the assassination of Malcolm X, Martin Luther King Jr., very much interrelated. We've already agreed that they're interrelated. Those three examples, they're in the same decade.
Yeah, I know.
And you can't say that doesn't frame a generational structure. That does frame a generation.
All of them within a 2 or 3 year apart.
The same age, for instance. I mean, they all got killed relatively young.
Which is not time to recover from none of it.
Very, very much relatively young in their lives. You know, I mean, we're talking about less than 40 years in two situations. And I think JFK was in his 40s, I want to say.
Yeah,
43, yeah.
43.
And then you talk about my recollection. This is where I say I'm not a millennial. My first recollection on the news is when Ronald Reagan made comments about a disease at the time. I didn't know the impact of the disease, acquired immunodeficiency syndrome, HIV/AIDS. That was the first thing when I saw the images of the people I saw on TV as a kid. Now I'm a kid. I'm probably 6 years old. And I see these boils. It looks like boils on their face and on their body. And I'm like, what is this, man? I'm 6 years old. And I'm like, it's like I saw something in a horror movie. That was the first thing I saw outside of a family dynamic where I was like, wow, what is that? And then the second thing for me, remember, I'm a 6-year-old. And then the second thing was when I saw the Berlin Wall fall. And this was under Ronald Reagan again.
Yeah.
These are two significant things in my childhood. But when I talk to millennials, they don't know anything about that. That's the reason why I say it's two events. Not to mention all the great music my dad used to play in the house, you know, all the old school music, from the dance music and the R&B and the soul music and the pop music. But just outside of that, those were the two things. And I think it shaped my view because it made me have more of a broader societal lens, especially like around the world. I've always cared about global issues. And we know that AIDS was very much a global impact. It was a global phenomenon. It wasn't just a U.S. thing. Berlin Wall all tied back to the geopolitics of the day, the China, the Russia, the United States, the world domination. To me, it's just interesting that kind of full circle of, you know, impact that it can have on a person. I know you guys want to comment on that.
When you said AIDS, I'm thinking the same way Dana. I know Dana thinks the same way. You talking about what is it? We were saying to ourselves, what is it? You know what? Because when we grew up, it wasn't no such thing as AIDS. You know what I'm saying, Dana?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It wasn't no such thing. So we were saying the same thing that, you know, that like he was saying.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
But it's been a whole lot of stuff out since we growed up.
Yeah, we
growing up, wasn't no such thing as AIDS. So we would say the same thing you said, Kiko.
Yeah, and then plus, you know, not knowing any knowledge about AIDS, what it was and how it really impacted people. We just heard that people die from it. From a moral perspective, sexuality was different too, in terms of how we was exposed to sexuality too. So that kind of, you know, probably protect us from a lot of perspective, from a larger perspective, where today, you know, sexuality and all that is so open from the point of you can see anything you want to on the internet. You can reach out to as many people you want to know other people in other areas of the country. Anything is open and to each individual liking. I just think there's a big problem with individualism, and I think that's the bigger problem in our world today. It's about individualism, freedom of expression, freedom of doing what I want to do. If that's what I want to do, I should have the right to do that. But I believe that you should have the right to do what you want to do, but you cannot have the freedom or have the right of doing what you want to do if you don't take the responsibility. If you want to take the freedom, you also got to take the responsibility, because you live in a world of inclusive. So if you want the freedom to do what you want to do, then you also have to take the responsibility. It's not fair for me to do what I want to do at the cost of hurting someone else. Okay. So where that big argument was about, should I wear the mask or not? Or should that government make me wear a mask? You should. If you have AIDS, or if you have COVID, and you at home by yourself, and nobody else but your family, and you want to infect your family, then that's your choice about your family. But it's not fair for you to invoke your sickness on me. That's not because if you want to take freedom, you have to take responsibility too. So I truly believe that I know these are sometimes political points, but think about it from a broader perspective. Don't I have responsibility? If I know it's going to hurt someone else, is that fair to that other person? Just because I don't want to wear a mask, because I don't believe in the science behind it.
A lot of them got
I don't know. I think you're throwing a lot in there. That's, first of all, we don't even know where AIDS really come from. Honestly, we don't.
Yeah.
And it's also presupposing that you can only get it a certain way. I mean, that was a crack epidemic happening at the same time that this started to happen.
Yeah.
And we can't just start jumping to like the human sexuality component. I think it's way more complicated than that.
You talking about AIDS?
I'm talking about, because I think there's still a lot unknown about the virus itself.
You talking about in terms of how we got it and
how it even came to exist.
Okay, so but let me ask you a question. Here's my question. If we don't know how it came to exist, let's just say we don't know that. But if we know that it's killing people, okay, those are the facts there. That factor. But if we know it's killing people, should we not protect each other? I understand all the other part, who we want to blame for it, how it came about, or whether it was. Some people think the government did it, right? But I just think it's pretty hard for the government all over the world to orchestrate something like that. I mean, they're pretty sharp if they can. I just think it's pretty.
I don't know, Dan.
I just think it's pretty hard. I just really do. I mean,
you don't really need to have the all.
But here's my point.
It's not as hard.
It's not as hard as you think it is.
But either way, let's say the government did it. Even if the government did do it, but I'm infected by it, I still should have the right to protect myself. Principally, I'm only talking about my right to protect myself, and I should not invoke something that I know there's harming me that can harm somebody else. That's my only thing. If I can take everything off the table, I'm just saying, if you see it, okay, but I have a right to be healthy.
That's true, but even compare again, we're going back to historical transitions, because there was a point when you got AIDS and it was a death sentence. You can't
for some.
Yeah. And
for some.
Now you can be more responsible and protective now, but it's hard when you don't even know. It took years before people even knew what this was.
Talking about AIDS?
Yeah, because I think if people knew what it was, those things wouldn't have happened the way they did.
Well, they knew how. But they did conclude how it was. They did conclude how it was transmitted. Okay, they did conclude that. They did conclude that the sex or sharing of the needle were the most possibility of you catching AIDS in any other way was a needle or sexual intercourse. So we knew that. All right.
But the thing about knowing it is, look how many people had to suffer and die before they know that. Because after all, nobody know what it was first.
Right. I agree. But if I know I got it, now that I know I got it, don't I have a responsibility?
Yeah, but some people that got it said, "Hell, I'm dying, so I'm going to kill him."
But that's selfish. That's selfish.
No, but see, some of this is also the way people are getting the information, and I say that because when it first came on the scene, it was marketed as GRID. It wasn't called AIDS, it was called GRID, like a gay renal disease. They basically made it seem like only gay people could get it. And you cannot tell me. Yeah. So if people are operating under the premise that only gay men can get it, do you know how much? You know what that causes? That means these people are thinking, "Oh, well, we don't have to worry about it. Just the gay men."
Sure,
but that's dangerous.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, but I don't know whether the information was out there falsely like that or not.
It was stigmatized. It was stigmatized.
Well, maybe based upon the majority of the people that maybe got AIDS at first, and they were being biased. You follow what I'm saying? So if you're talking about a group of people, and let's say you got 100 cases, out of those 100 cases, you saw 75% were gay people that got AIDS. So what you do? So you take in scrutinize them, make it look like it's more their situation than anybody else. Right? Yep. I can see that happen. Right? I can see that happen. Mm-hmm. But as I said before, here's what I believe, and I say this about slavery too. Okay, it's all falling in the same category. I believe that if you want to take the freedom, you have to take responsibility, and people can't understand that. See, if I want to take this freedom to get in my car and drive it 100 miles an hour on the interstate, as fast as I want to drive it, that's my car. If I want to take the freedom to do that, I can. But if I kill 20 people in the process, I've got to take that responsibility. That's the part that people don't get. I just can't take the freedom without having responsibility for the freedom that I take. That's the whole problem. And that's the whole problem with America. They took the freedom, but they have yet taken responsibility.
Okay, but with AIDS and COVID, man, I think that the thing about COVID is that the mask doesn't stop transmission. That's the only issue I have. I think it's easier now based on what we know. It's easier to prevent yourself from getting AIDS depending on the situation as it is from getting COVID.
You said the mask.
The reality is that COVID now has almost become like the common cold or flu. It has.
Yeah, but you said the mask.
Said the mask, they don't keep you from getting it.
But wait a minute, hold it. Now the mask may not make you 100% of not getting it.
Of course it doesn't.
I said not 100%.
I think the mask give you a more peace of mind.
They proven that the mask
help prevent. I always say
right here. I say in all cases, right? On a scale of 1 to 10, go back to the number 1 to 10. What is the chances if you wear a mask? So if my chances are better that I won't spread it, I'm just saying if it's better, then what's wrong with wearing the mask? If it's here's what I understand, and it's a word that I looked up. What the idea of evil and a lesser evil.
Oh my God, here we go with that.
But anyway, here's my point. If it's going to, what's wrong with it if I know it's going to prevent? Why can I can't take the deontological approach, which is doing what is morally right, rather than taking the utilitarianism approach, which means I'm only gonna do what works best for the most people, right? I think that the more moral deontological approach is the most reasonable approach to take. The only time I say that maybe you shouldn't wear the mask on the deontological approach, because looking at that word, if the deontological approach, which is taking more responsibility, if it's in the event where someone come in my house and I'm killing them, and I kill them because they try to come into my house and kill my family, I've taken the deontological approach by doing what is morally right in the event of the condition of the situation. They're trying to kill my family. So I'm not wrong in doing that. So the mask is still in the same perspective. If the mask, the moral thing to do is to wear the mask.
Okay, that's your right, is to wear the mask, but the science has debunked everything you're saying. The mask does not keep you from getting it. It just doesn't.
It does not. So the mask does.
In other words, if you have a diaper on your ass and you shit in the diaper, the shit is still going to leak through the diaper. That's the point I'm making. It's more of a sense of state of mind, like he was saying. It's more of a psychological calmness than it is. It still ain't keeping you from getting the shit.
No.
I mean, that's just the reality of it. I mean,
it just gives you a hope. It just gives you a hope that.
And it's fine. To me, it's a freedom. If you want to wear a mask, I can't tell you not to do that. You absolutely have every right to wear that mask. But you can't tell me I need to wear one.
But let me question.
It's the same with the shot. The same with the shots. Just because you're getting a shot in your body, you can't tell me that I got to get one.
But do you agree? Do you agree though? The situation, the COVID. Do you agree that if you have the COVID and you know it, do you think you have a responsibility to respect to protect others?
Yeah.
If you have COVID.
Yes.
So are you going to go outside and participate with a mass of people when you know you have COVID?
No, but this is where your premise is gone. It dies is when I'm still in contact with people. Though you're making it seem like I'm just in a room by myself, but the reality is that my family is still around me. Yeah, so even if they don't have it, somebody's got to take care of me, right?
Yeah, but my point, I mean, my point is that you
and then like in the nursing homes, for instance, if I'm in a nursing facility and you're comparing apples and oranges with that, because let's just say I decided to quarantine until I'm COVID free. But what about somebody that's in a nursing facility that doesn't have? Somebody's got to take care of them.
Yeah, but here's my point.
Those people are exposing themselves to those infections too. The people who are the caregivers.
My point is this: when you know you have it, and you know you can protect others by not exposing them to what you have, then the moral thing to do is to do that. I'm not saying to you that you can't go to the grocery store or you can't walk in the park, but if you know you got COVID, you know that the chances are if you go in the grocery store and everybody else in the grocery store, the chances are somebody's gonna get COVID because you're in the grocery store and you're talking. My point is, as I said before, and this is what people don't understand. I mean, what I think people is misunderstanding what I'm saying. I just think that moral responsibility is important, and we should take our moral responsibility. It's just saying that I care enough about you not to hurt you when I know I'm hurt myself. That's all I'm saying. This has nothing to do with political reason or nothing like that. It has more to do with what about responsibility? Why come people don't? If be a hermit, if you don't want to be in society and you want to do anything you want to do, that's what's wrong with society now. Everybody want to do their own thing, how they want to do it, but they want to live in society with everybody else. It just doesn't work that way. It's not fair. If you live in society, there ought to be a guideline and rule of protection that go for everybody. Morally, it's right to do that. That's why civil rights movement came about. That's why we had civil rights movement. That's why affirmative action came about. Why? Because morally, we wanted to be included in having things that everybody else had. So it's the same principle with everything else. You know?
Daddy, do you have any response to this, Dad? Do you have any response to what he's saying?
I agree with him for the most part. If I'm sick, I wouldn't want to try to be around nobody and get them sick. That's just me though. But see, everybody ain't like that. Some people don't give a damn. Some people don't care.
I agree with that, but I'm just saying that there's a larger issue at play is people aren't even talking about that anymore, man. They're not even talking about the virus anymore.
No, because
Do you see how easy it is to flip the script?
Well, it's been 4 years too, though. You got to look at time. Got something to do with it too.
And people ain't dying like they used to. That's a reason.
Yeah. That's the main reason. That's the main reason.
Have y'all gotten it before?
If 10,000, 20,000
people dying, they be talking about it.
You can have right be talking about.
Okay, have you gotten it? And have y'all gotten it?
I have.
I think if you ever breathe, you got it some kind of way, just didn't affect you as much.
And see, and that's the thing too. There was a game that was played, and I understand what you're saying, but there were also a lot of people that had it that didn't know that they had it.
I know.
There were a lot of asymptomatic cases of COVID.
I know. See, that's the mystery of it. You know?
Well, yeah. I mean,
you can have it and not even know you had it. You ain't sick or nothing.
You can't be responsible for something you don't know.
Yeah.
Exactly. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, if you don't know.
And to me, this is where, and a lot of people aren't bringing this question up because we won't know the answers ultimately. We won't know the answers. I just believe, and people can disagree all they want, I believe that the origin from COVID is the same origin from AIDS. I believe that the same people who created AIDS created COVID. That's what I believe. I'll always believe that. It's hard to prove, but I just think that people need to think about, like, I believe that there was a purpose behind it. I just don't think that it was a naturally occurring thing. I believe that there was a reason. Right. I believe that there's a reason that it was implemented, and I believe that there's a reason. There's just people that always have the information, unfortunately. And what I'm getting at is that this is a medical industry. It's not, sure, I believe in science, but at the same time, I know that science is also controlled by money too. The science industry is. And so we simply can't just say it's the science, because I know that the science changes and the money also changes. The question is, where did those two overlap? Because I don't think that those things, whether we're talking about the AIDS epidemic, there was actually silence. The AIDS epidemic was actually kept under control. It was censored a lot. It was underexposed. And if you ask me, the COVID mania was overexposed. That's all we saw on the news. The death ticker was on the TV.
But the only thing about that, what made it different too, it was so many people were dying from COVID worldwide. If you add up everybody's dead in every country, they wasn't dying like that from AIDS. Not that many every day that quick. Yeah. You know, see what I'm saying? So
I'll look at it. I don't agree with that statement. I just think it's the way the information was transferred. Because a lot of people don't realize that I believe it was like 20,000 people just in San Francisco that died from AIDS in a certain time frame. Like it, I just don't think it was televised the same way. I believe that people were dying, but when it's black people dying from crack or black people dying from AIDS, or if you're gay and you're dying from it, I just don't think that people put the same amount of energy into it as opposed to everyone across the board. The reality is that certain communities were affected by AIDS and still are affected by AIDS. And you can't tell me that doesn't have a play into the way the news presents it and other people present it. I think that has something to do with it.
Yeah, well, I think it does in terms of the kind of coverage that we get relating to, because we have to look at it during the history that, person of color were not looked at as being equal. Were not looked at as being equal. And I think today, in some ways, in some places, that's still that same mentality is still there, where depending on your ethnicity, is how people value who you are, and also what they would do in terms of providing information about you. Depends on who you are. For example, you remember when that? I mean, this is not to minimize the suffering. I was sad that it happened, but you remember when that ship, this they had built this kind of ship. I forgot the name of it, and it was a very high society, rich people that died. I think it was three of them. What was the name of that space castle that they made that went under? They went under the water, and it never came back up.
You talking about the Titanic?
No, not the
No,
Titanic.
no.
No.
You
What was
talking
it?
about the thing like a submarine that they put underwater and
Oh, and they died. This was like
yeah,
last
yeah.
year, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
last year.
yeah.
Well.
It
Those people that were well-to-do people that died, had a lot of money. Now the same day, I think in Haiti, there were uh, 6 or 7 people that died too. The very same day. But they didn't cover that news. That news was not covered. You never even hear about it. It was just arbitrarily talked about, and that was it. Where the other group of people was just constant being told, and etc. So we do know that. I believe that America still have ways to go in
ways,
general. In terms of
ways.
in terms of how we value each other, right? I still think we have ways to go. I mean, there has been improvement. I know people don't want to. I mean, I'm not saying that there has not been improvement, because I can remember going to my mom's restaurant. Me and my brother, 3 brothers, that small. We couldn't walk in the front door. They told us 3 boys to go around the back. You know, and my kids have kids. I don't have to tell them to go around the back. They can go anywhere they want to go now. So we have made progress. The thing we haven't made progress in, I think, as a country, is opportunity. Opportunity in a way where we invest in the communities in which we created. That's the thing. That's the only thing that bothers me, is that we don't want to take the responsibility for what we created, as it relate to um, the African American community. You know, if we pour money into the community, right? I'm talking about money in program that really makes a difference, like education, build machinery around those communities where they can get jobs. They don't have to go over here and over there, where they can have a good living wages. It can make a difference in those families. But we won't do that. We think that because we kind of have the right to go to this job or to do this or that or other, that they've already done their just duty. And I just disagree with that. I think, do you know more? Do you know there's more other ethnicity group, in compared to the African American group in America, have more opportunity than we do. More stores, uh, more businesses. And in the 60s, did you know there were more stores and opportunity in the 60s than it is now? When I was a boy, as a boy, I could tell you 5 stores that I could walk to and buy something as a boy
That's interesting.
in the African American community. That's Trey. Trey, how many stores you remember when you were a boy that you could go to?
Yeah, but you forgetting one factor though. That was before they integrated the school.
I know. I understand that, but
a whole lot of that had a lot to do with them 5 stores, because
The whole separate but equal.
what happened to them 5 stores after integration?
yeah, that's because we couldn't compete.
Disappeared in 10 years, didn't it?
That's because we couldn't compete. From the other guy had more capital. He had more capital. He could buy. He could have a store over here to have more stuff, better price, and we couldn't compete with them. And the thing that I've always said that the civil rights movement should have done, that it didn't do, were to include free education. If they had given, if they had given us free education, if they didn't do anything else for us, if they didn't even give us a house to move into another house, if they had given us free education and opportunity to not to be discriminatory in terms of job, you would see a different America.
I don't think you can put down the civil rights movement though. That's due to the federal government. That has nothing to do. They can't write any laws or anything. I don't think that that's a fair criticism of. I think a lot of the things that you're talking about, they did do. If you go, I advise everyone to go to YouTube. It's there. They don't want us to see this information, but it's there. The Black Panthers had all types of social programs of what you're talking about.
And you know what happened to them, Dana?
And everything, education. They had all those. They were offering free classes and everything.
And you know what happened to them, Dana?
Now I'm talking about free scholarship. I'm talking about free scholarship to college.
I'm talking about that too. I'm talking about education programs. I'm talking about people establishing their own grocery stores, growing their own gardens, community gardens. Like the Black Panthers had all these programs.
Back in the 60s, yes.
I know that's what we're talking about, though.
But what I'm saying is, if they
you just criticize that movement, though.
No. What I'm saying is, if the civil rights movement, what I'm trying to say, would include free education, paid free education for generation to come. If they had done that, which means if I wanted to go to school, my son wanted to go to school, my son's sons go to school, that was free for X number century, I can assure we wouldn't be in the place that we're in.
But how are they supposed to get that through is my question. That's what I'm getting at.
How they supposed to get it? How they supposed to get that through?
They're not lawmakers. That's the point I'm making.
Well, should be through, just like the government should do what they said back to the 2 acres and the mule.
The promise. Back too far now, baby.
The two. No, really. The 2 acres and the mule.
You talking about the 40 acres of the mule?
Well, 40 acres. How many other acres there were that they promised that they never look? The Holocaust. The Holocaust.
You know what they did, Dana?
What?
You know what they did?
What?
They give a lot of the people 40 acres on the mule, and you know what they did? Turn around and took it back. They gave a whole lot of people 40 acres of mule in Georgia and South Carolina, and then they turned around and took it all back.
What do you mean they took it all back?
They come in and took it back. You can look it up.
And Dana, we're also assuming too, look at what they did to communities that were thriving before Jim Crow. Look at what they did to Rosewood. Look at what they did to Tulsa. Look at what they did to all these communities. So we're assuming that a lot of things are going to still be intact.
No, I'm only saying that just like the Holocaust and some of those survivors get restitution, etc. Why come that America can't do the same? Why come they refuse to? They find ways to do everything else. Pay for it all. We can look. I just don't understand that. We can send all the money to Ukraine. We can support other countries that we say that's within NATO and we partner with them, etc. We can make all these international agreements, lots of money. But for the African American community, for our part, no investment whatsoever.
And why is that?
I'm talking about upper hand. Other ethnicity group can come in America and have a better start, better opportunity than we. And at the end of the day, we built the country. I don't care how you look at it. That's not from a prejudice perspective. This is just reality. The 50 years of labor for free. Let me ask you a question. How well off would you be if you worked for 50 years and got the paycheck. You didn't have to work for 50 years and they just gave you money for 50 years. You didn't do anything for it. How much money would you have? You have a lot of money, wouldn't you? If you didn't have to pay rent, your paycheck, the whole paycheck that you got for the number of years you worked, if you just kept every dime that you had, but you'd be pretty well off, wouldn't you? Trying about all the money that you worked for. How many years you worked? 60.
It don't work that way though, Dan.
For 50.
Yeah.
Somebody always got you bent over and asking you to spell the word run. Bend over and spell run. And tell me, you know what that means? Bend over and spell run. R-U-N. That's a government. Y'all still don't get it.
No. I can't wait to replay this episode.
Man, it's gonna always be hard for the minorities for the simple fact that what you talking about it's been tried so many times, promises been made so many times. It's just like Tupac said, if they got this one big room, ain't nothing in it but food, and you trying to sing your way in. On the first day, you're gonna be saying, I'm hungry, I want some food. By about the third day, that song will be changed and said, ooh, I'm starving real bad. Please give me some food. By about the fifth or sixth day, it ain't no sweet singing. It's, hey, I'm coming in picking the lock blasting. Because you didn't ask. You asked with the civil rights movement. You asked with the Panthers. What do you think you're gonna do now? All them people are dead. What do you think you're gonna do now? Ask? As long as I hate to be saying this, but I know it's true. I done seen it. As long as there is money in this country, is the driving force. All humanity has been pushed to the back. You're gonna always be in the same predicament. It's hard to get out. It's hard to get out. It's really a struggle to survive. Little struggle to survive. Because I look at it like it. Even if you had all the money, can't take it with you. We only got two things in common, baby. That's life and death. All that other stuff in the middle, that's part of living. And as long as you ain't got but two choices, you ain't gonna get as long as you ain't got but two choices, you'll never be able to make a different choice than those two choices. That's the way it goes. That's part of the control. You got to be a Democrat or you got to be a Republican. Anything else, they'll trash you in a minute. Anything else, they'll trash you in a minute. And then everybody got this line to fall back on. Well, it's really the lesser of two evils. Lesser of two evils. That's like saying, well, I'm going to shoot myself. I'm going to shoot myself in the head. But instead of me shooting myself in the head right here, I'm going to shoot it right here. Same thing, you're getting shot in the damn head. I don't understand it, man.
I think within electoral politics, and I'm strictly speaking electorally, I'm not talking about anything else. I'm not going to degrade the direct action movements and the protests before this. I think for the purpose of voting, which I don't think is I don't think it's as important as people say it is. I just don't. And we can disagree with that. That's totally fine. But the point I make is that what the civil rights movement was back then to electoral politics, supporting independents and third parties is just as important in electoral politics if we want to actually do something to influence outside of the system, because those candidates cannot accept dark money, super PAC money, all these TV ads you see. They cannot do that legally. Democrats and Republicans can do that legally. So, of course, they're always going to have more spotlight than those candidates. That don't mean that you don't support those candidates just because they're not visible. Maybe we need to make them visible. It has to be a grassroots effort. It has to be channels like mine that give those people voices. Otherwise, they're not going to get a voice. They're not going to show them on the mainstream television. We have to give them voices. To me, that's true people power. A lot of the people tell me, Kiko, if it wasn't for you, man, I wouldn't even know who X and X person was. And that's the game. The game is you buy out your competition. To where no one knows that person exists. And that's what I try to do. I don't argue Democrat and Republican on this show. It's not even worth my time to argue it because I already know what it is. They planted that seed that those are your two options. I don't agree that those are my two options. I know that there are other options, but if I can get this person to 5%, maybe the next time it's 8%, maybe the next time it's 15%. To me, that's a worthwhile cause than supporting the same person every single cycle. And that's what I'm going to continue to fight for. Even if I don't think it's going to happen, that's what my fight is going to be if we're talking about elections.
Well, that's the only way you're going to really have a true change. As long as you still got a choice of two, you really ain't got but two choices. It needs something to shake up the system for the better good, because it's been going this same way we doing now for a long time, and I just don't think it's getting us nowhere. As far as I know, the Republicans are running up the debt just like the Democrats are running up the. I don't see how one is doing. I don't see how one is doing no better than the other. Like I said, you got to ask yourself one hard question: do you really think they're gonna pay off the national debt? Man, that's an illusion. Illusion. They ain't gonna do that.
Well,
it's gonna always be debt. As long as you live, gonna always be a debt.
I mean, I think there's some things that certainly is true. Competition always makes a difference in anything that you do.
Fair competition.
Well, right. Fair competition, meaning you get the same episode or minute time, the same advertisement, etc. So I agree that competition makes a difference. I totally agree with that. I agree that we are limited to a certain degree to two parties for the most part.
To a certain degree.
Well, did we not say from a certain degree?
We are limited to a 99.8% degree. What are you talking about? A certain degree.
Because
who else you gonna vote for?
Because of this. Because of this. The people, look, I still say to you, the people that are for the Democrat or Republican Party is people. The Democrat Party. Hold on a second. The Democratic Party or the Republican Party or the Independent Party is made of people. Okay, that's no matter how you look at it, it's people. The senator, the House of Representative, your mayor, your community leader, your homeowner association is made of people. And here's the problem. Just like if I'm part of a homeowner association and you got 500 houses in the community, and let's say at the association meeting, only out of the 500 houses in the community, only 10 of them show up. Well, you give away your power. You have given your power over to the board of directors to make your decision because you don't have a quorum. You don't have enough people voting involved. So if you don't want the 10 people on the board make the decision for you, then you have to influence other people to show up in order to meet the quota to override the decision that those 10 people want to make. That's the problem. That's the problem with America, right? That's the problem here. I mean, problem in terms of participation, what I'm trying to say. If people would get involved, you wouldn't have two parties. But it's not enough effort. It's not enough effort. It's not enough effort. If we were involved if we were involved like we were in the past, that involved as a collective body for a particular cause, okay? Because that's what the movement was back in the 60s. It was inclusive, involved for a particular cause. If we had people involved not for a cause, we wouldn't be sitting where we're sitting. But people won't get involved.
You're gonna always be sitting while you're sitting. You know what that is? The government, they can put you where they want you, and they got you where they want you.
I just don't give a. I believe I don't, because the government have all look. Here's what I say, and this is what I say. I just believe that everything that has happened from the existence of America from 1776 to right now, everything has happened from 1776 to where we are right now. Any changes that has taken place, it's not all about a third or second or fourth party. It's about people getting involved. Until people have a conscience enough, and they're probably not going to do it until their house is on fire. Till they can't, till the pressure part is so hot that they don't have a choice, because everything that's happening in society have come to a point in so disarray that they don't have no other choice but to get involved. And that's what's going to happen. Eventually, that's what's going to, you don't believe me? Mark my word. What's going to happen, the pot, I'm talking about all the way up to your highest place of employment to down to the little man, when everybody is affected by it, that's when you're going to see. That's when you're going to see change. That is when you're going to see change. Until people in moral conscious, until we have a conscience where we care about inclusive, not just me, individualism, but we care about inclusive. We care about everybody else. See, here's the problem is, as I said before, redundant. The problem is we only care about my house is okay. I'm paying my mortgage. I'm driving the car I want to drive. I'm working where I want to work. I'm buying the clothes I want to buy. I'm fine. I'm not even looking out the window to see how everybody's doing. I'm caring about how I'm doing. Until we change that mentality, have a more conscious, where we believe individualism, the inclusive is important, that's when change is going to come.
Okay, before Dad, I'm going to let Dad respond to that, but I just want to give out a stat, and then we're going to have to go relatively soon. Worldwide COVID deaths, 7 million, roughly over 7 million. AIDS deaths worldwide, 42.3 million. So just to put in perspective the point I was trying to make earlier about the way information is pushed on people to not make you realize the actual, reality of the situation on the ground that kind of pinpoint certain communities. But I want Dad to respond to anything that Dana said, and then I want to give each of you all a few minutes in closing that you may have for the audience, any words you may have for the audience, and the closest or the easiest way for someone to contact you in case they had a question or a comment for you. And something tells me after this episode, dude, we may break the internet with this shit, man. I'm not even lying. Dude, could you imagine if this was a live stream, the amount of comments we'd be getting? Oh, gosh, I'm kind of scared to see the comments coming in with this one. But, Dad, do you have any response to what Daniel was saying?
I see no change. I don't think you're going to ever see a change as long as you got, quote unquote, the lesser of two evils running. I don't see no change because everybody on a different agenda. They won't run it this way. They're going to do it this way. No one wants to do it together. You get it? No one wants to do it together. And without doing it together, we're going to always do it this way or that way. We, the American people, you talking about we elect this and do that. We're the losers because when they get up there, they do what they want to do. They're not doing the will of the people. They know what they want to do. And like I said, money will make you change your perspective. You got too many lobbyists involved in the lawmaking and all that. And, until it's ain't gonna never get no better until you take the money out. You take the money out, and the real ideas will come in. The real answers to the question will come in. The real problem solving will come in. As long as the money stay in, you can always be in the same rut, because the same money that runs in one side is the same money that runs the other. What's the difference between Soros and Elon Musk? It's money pulling this way and money pulling that way. Like I said, until you take the money out, when you take the money out, you take the I and the we out and the it out. And then there'll be we together. Togetherness is the only way. You can't have it one way this for 8 years and then the next 8 years just and the same old problems hanging around since 1960. Same old everybody. When they gonna solve it? They're not trying to solve that. I'm like this. This is the easy way I can explain it to you. It's just like cancer. You think they're gonna ever? They don't spend enough money to the moon and doing old dumb stupid stuff. They could solve cancer. They could find a cure for cancer. But you know what the impact that would have if they found a cure for cancer tomorrow? You know how many cancer research facilities it is nationwide that you would have to shut down cancer drugs and pharmaceuticals, this, that. It's a wide impact. It's a wide impact. And there is no quote unquote money in the cure. There is money in the treatment and the medicine. So therefore, we can send a man to the moon. As complex a technology as that is, but we can't find a cure for cancer. We can't find it. We got disease been laying around here for forever, destroying a band-aid on it. We could. I believe in my heart. I really, in my heart, I do. I believe. I know we could. We could find a cure for cancer. We could find a cure for this, but there is no money to be made in the cure. And look at your economic impact that would have to happen nationwide. If they found a cure for cancer, you know how many cancer places it is nationwide, Dana? You're talking about a whole lot of facilities. And all them people will be out of work. The economic impact is too great for the cure. You get it? So therefore, pass you up long enough to get you to the next station.
The same thing we've done with all the wars.
If they really wanted to do it, they could do it. I in my heart, I know they could do it. Can't do it because of money. Because of money. Ain't that something? You cured one of the best things that you could do for humanity. It's not economical enough to do it. The economic impact would it's just too much to lose. Them built all them buildings for nothing. You can't do nothing with them no more. You know, I understand it, but like I say, you got a choice of four. Shit. I understand it though. Everything gonna be all right when they lower you to the ground. That's what I believe. I'm sorry.
My God.
That's what I believe. That's what I believe.
Okay, I'll give you gentlemen a few minutes to conclude. And again, if someone has a question or a comment, what would be the most effective way to get in touch with you in case that person had a question or a comment? And something tells me that people are going to have a lot of questions and comments on this particular episode 142. I've enjoyed every minute of it, honestly, though. I think we need to do it again after the new year. And I hope you, Jenna, will be down for that conversation experience, too.
Well, in closing, I just like to say I'm elated to be with family. There's nothing like family It really isn't. At the end of the day, family matters. And, I think structure and, in principle makes a big difference who we are, what we do, how we approach things. When you have structure and principles to lead your life, I think it will impact on your decision. I think the reason I am the person that I am today is because my grandmother had principles and she had structure in terms of things that I should and should not do. And because of that, I try to live my life by those decisions of having some principles and having some structure in my life. Because I think that if you don't have principles to live by, then you are easy to be persuaded to do anything or to think any kind of way or to believe anything because you have nothing to measure what what right is wrong is. That's what structure and principle does. It gives you something to measure something by. So I truly believe that structure and principle is important. The civil rights movement had structure. It had principles. Principle of inclusion, that everybody ought to be included and have the same right. And if you look at why America, in 1776, when it says that we should have our own inalienable rights to to pursue happiness uh, uh, and freedom, in that Declaration of Independence, it was structure. Now, of course, it may be questionable um, exactly if all were included in that principle, but they had structure and principle of what they thought that the America ought to stand for. So I hope that when you make decisions about anything that you have to do in life, that you have structure and you have principles. And remember that if you want change, you have to be a participant. If you don't participate and you stay on the outside looking in, you can't expect any change to happen. You have to be a part of the solution. Anyone can can give a conclusion of the matter, but it takes someone who has a heart to be a part of the solution. And then lastly, I say this: the moral conscience of America, the moral conscience of what we believe, makes a big difference of who we are. If we have no morals, if we have no value system, it doesn't matter to me what the other person is doing, how the other person is being affected, because I have no morals. We need to have morals where we care for everybody else. And when we do that, I think we can see change.
Where can they reach you at?
Oh, oh, you can reach me at Trying Money, TRYINGMONEY, Trying Money at hotmail.com. And you can text me at 615-596-2636.
Well, all I got to say is I'm just a straight. I call it for what it is. Uh, like I said, I see no changes. That don't mean that change won't come. I just don't see none in the near future. I just don't see none. Not right away. I always will have a hope. I always will have a hope for the better. That's what keeps the dreams and aspirations alive. Is a hope. One day it's gonna have to take the consciousness of America to really push for the change. As long as we're letting someone else make our decision, in other words, as long as we are letting the two-party system make our decisions, we will forever be in a rut. And what I mean by that is this, and they'll pass the law it'll last 4 years till the next ones get in. Then you back to square one, which is basically the phase we finna go through now, I believe. It looks that way anyway. You're never gonna have a change until something catastrophic gonna have to happen, I believe, because as long as the MONEY is controlling both aspects of society, then you're gonna always have, like I said, problem. But there is a hope. There is a hope for a better tomorrow. Behind every dark cloud, there's a bright day after that. You can reach me. Just reach me through Kiko's Freethinkers forum if you got any questions, because I'm not really don't really want to answer no 10,000 questions, because it don't do me no good to answer 10,000 questions when I can't offer a solution myself. All I can do is just offer what I think. We together have to have the solution. No one person has the solution. We have to come together on the solution. So I have hope. That's all. I wouldn't put my faith in the two parties. I just can't do it because I see the same thing happening too. You pass something this, it might last 4 years till the next one get in, and they do something with it. They can do something with it. We need real solutions. We need real answers. We need real change. Change gonna come one day, and I hope it before they lower us all into the ground. And I hope it before then. But if I'm lowered before it happens, I always bear in mind that what I said, one way or another, we can overcome these problems.
I just want to say I had the pleasure of being in the company of you gentlemen today for this 3 hours, and I think that this is going to have probably one of the greatest receptions that the forum has ever had, and that can be people just throwing questions or comments or anything else. And because the way I look at it, it's still engagement, whether they don't agree with us or not. It's still engagement. It's an opportunity to further the conversation. It's an opportunity to meet the minds, and I don't think that there's enough of that going on. Meeting the minds and people trying to work together and correlate these ideas is simply shooting down the other idea. My forum is intended to foster diverse thought processes. These are complex issues we discuss on this show. And as you all can note, compared to other podcasters, I'm different because I bring on a variety of people. I could bring on Trump one day, Kamala on one day, Jill Stein one day, Cornel West one day, or I could bring on the local plumber one day, the local lawyer one day, the local firefighter one day. It doesn't matter to me, conservative, liberal, upside down, inside out, north, south, east, west. It doesn't matter. I think the labels are a joke personally. I think the labels are there just to keep people from talking to each other. Mm-hmm. I don't think that they're no real labels. The labels are the ones we put on ourselves. And I think the quicker people realize that, they can find the common ground if they really want to find the common ground. Because we're basically saying that these people are too different to get to. And to me, that's just a way to defeat yourself. That's defeatism. When you're saying that these people are too different, I don't believe people are that different, because at the end of the day, you still have to eat, you have to sleep, you have to breathe, you have to do everything everyone else is doing. I just think that that's a way to separate yourself from other people. It's not easy to come onto a show like this, and I commend people that agree to come onto the show. It's not easy knowing that we're talking about politics, putting, your views on the line for millions of people to scrutinize those views and stuff. It's not easy, but I think these conversations need to happen not only in our family, but just outside of the family. Like, we need to have these conversations. Otherwise, it's like, what's the point? If you're just going to be stuck in your box. And that's another danger with social media this day, is the propensity to basically just get people to reaffirm the views that you already had coming in. That's easy. I could bring 1,000 people in that had the same views I have. What's that going to accomplish? I'm not trying to change people's minds. I'm trying to understand what other people are seeing and maybe build from that common ground. And we talked a lot about common cause today. For me, would be the next time we come on together, what is the common cause after this cycle, this election cycle? The election happens and then it ends, and they go back to what they were doing before. I'm vested in the things in between the lines. I'm not just here for the election. I'm here after the election. I don't care about this election personally. That's my biggest concern. What can we be doing outside of November the 5th? It's not always about hyping up things to the day. People, it's just like a football game. After in the off season, people are training for the next season. They're not just there putting on pads, getting ready for the regular season and the preseason. They're preparing for a whole nother season. And we need to be doing the same thing in politics. This is not a sport. This is fighting for our survival. It's supposed to be. And that's the way I see it here. If we're really, truly that invested in fighting for our survival, this stuff would care more. It would mean more than just every 2 months leading to an election, a local election, or it doesn't even matter if it's local or not. People say that local elections matter more. It's still the same thought process, whether it's a local election, a national election, a state election, or whatever. You still need to be doing things leading up to those events. And that's the only point I'm making. I'm going to stop here because otherwise it's just going to be another 2 to 3 hours if we're on here that we really just can't afford to have today. But I just want to say, beautiful people, 142, epic. I know it's epic because I want to listen to it as soon as I get off this record button. But I just want to say cheers to everybody. We have a plethora of guests coming on down the road. We have S.L. Kenton coming back on with Jack Rasmus, I think, next week. We're going to talk about the upcoming BRICS conference in Russia, in Kazan, Russia, which is a significant geopolitical event. It's the 16th BRICS conference. And people who don't know what BRICS is, Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, they are a conglomerate that are starting basically an initiative to think about putting their local currencies, making them stronger, multiculturalism, multipolarity, getting away from the wars. That's kind of the initiative there. And since then, there have been countries that have joined the BRICS coalition. It's really the global South countries that aren't the first world G7 countries like Japan, Germany, France, United States, all these different places. There's a lot of collaboration going on outside of the United States, and a lot of what we get in our social media and our mainstream media is simply US, France, US, Germany. The world is bigger than NATO. The world is bigger than the United States. There's a whole nother world going on out there. And if people aren't paying attention to these geopolitical affairs, then it's going to limit your political scope as a whole. We have to really think about the world, not just ourselves, because we're all connected. These economies are connected. These wars connect to all these families. People are people at the end of the day, and that's the way people need to see it. It's not simply our bubble. It's the whole world is a bubble. It's not just our bubble. We just have other guests coming on. We have Adrian Sebro coming on next week, talking about a lot of the shows. Sanford and Son from Tandem Productions, All in the Family. This person wrote a lot about these different shows, the quote unquote, the black sitcoms of the day. I think that that's going to be a very interesting conversation coming up next week. I can't even tell you the people we have in store. There's just so many of them. And we have election night coverage here at Kiko's Freethinker Forum. So join us, get us to the 20,000 sub mark. I honestly believe the way things are going right now, we could hit 20,000 subs by the end of the year. It only takes one video or a couple videos, and next thing you know, you're viral. And I believe with the internet, that's possible. That's the thing about the internet. It's a double-edged sword, because as much negativity that there is on the internet, there's also potentiality and possibility with the internet for positive change. And I believe that we can do it here at Kiko's Freethinkers Forum and other platforms as well. Enjoy the rest of your day, everyone. Cheers, everybody.
Everybody out. Peace out.
All right. Peace out.